It started with an owner who had a last name fans despised, hiring a coach that the experts thought was crazy,
But I got a plan, I swear to you.
who traded for a QB that was said to be washed up. They said the Detroit Lions would never amount to anything, that it would always be the same old Lions. But this team, our team, has a new identity, defined and expressed by the crazy head coach,
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes, I will beat your ass.
led by the QB that nobody thought was good. Motor City Mania is in full swing and ready to start. So join the show and be prepared for kneecap biting, because Motor City Mania starts right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the reaction show for post-game of the Lions' victory versus the Atlanta Falcons. 20-6 victory for our Detroit Lions today. With me, I've got DC8091, I've got Smokin' Jeremy B, and I've got Jay Joker. How's everybody doing today?
Damn good.
Fantastic.
Always a great day when the Lions win. Always a great day when the Lions win. So, as always, thank you guys for showing up for the show. We'll probably have at least a couple more people pop in later. But as always, you guys know the show format. All questions that we can get to, we'll also address with the address the comments as they come in from the fans. Already got a couple already, so we'll take a look at those really quickly. Robin's Nest was quite busy before the show. He says, I'll be here. Elizabeth Oberlin says it was a good game and time down at Ford Field. I'm sure it was.
Awesome.
That place must have been rocking. Robin's Nest says Gibbs balling, Campbell balling,
Yes,
Laporta balling, Branch player of the freaking game balling. Rooks were on point today. He was going off. Grit agrees, says yes, they were. Great game. Patty Grimes says, what's up? Not much, Patty. Just getting into the swing of things here. Michael Powell already asked a question and kind of puts a little exclamation on it. He says, is anyone questioning how the number 112 pick, Jahmyr Gibbs, he had a hell of a game. He had a pretty damn good game.
I mean, was it fantastic? No, it was 4.7 yards per carry. It was, 80 yards rushing on the ground?
Give or take.
That's a good game. That's a good game. He had almost double the production of Bijan Robinson.
Yep. Alan McMillan says, yes. Justin May the Rapper says, big Lions win. Absolutely. Facebook user says, you called it. A very injury-plagued team had grit. Yes, we did. Justin May the Rapper says his typical intro, being an obsessed Detroit Lions fan from Rochester Hills. Patty Grimes asks, what's the biggest surprise of the Lions win? That's actually a question we'll kind of ask later, so stay tuned for that one. Braylon Dennis says that he was at the game. I wish I could have been, but that'll be a later on down the line. Elizabeth Oberlin asks if there's any word on Nelson. No, but I hope it's that he doesn't come back and play anytime soon because he's god-awful at tackle.
Well, I can put some people at ease because Decker's already been on the sideline working with trainers along with Kirby Joseph. So I have a feeling they kept him out so he can get fully healthy for this game.
I believe it's so as well, and we'll actually get to that here in a little bit. LDV Tennis asks, did Reynolds have a catch? As far as I know, he might have had one, maybe. Perry Ball says they need to use Gibbs as a running back. They need to use Gibbs in a lot of different ways. Like Gibbs, again, is a multi-purposeful, useful weapon. So Brent DeWitt then says, funny, don't look now, but we have a running QB.
Hey,
Exactly.
yeah. Hey, you want to know what I said when that touchdown happened? I put it in my child's chat because I was with those guys. I sit there. I said, "Hey, look, J-Mo took over the play calling on Madden and did an RPO with Goff."
Yep, absolutely. Grit then says, huge statement by the defense. Absolutely.
Yes,
Defense
yes,
came
sir.
out and played very good today. All right, having caught up to the comments, let's start off with our show today with our first topic. As always, any part of the show will be devoted to audience questions and or comments as I just demonstrated. And as always, I like to start off with some very simple ones. What were the biggest winners from the gritty win that the Lions had over the Falcons? So, DC, what do you think? Who are the biggest winners for this team today?
Hutch and Branch.
I mean, I won't disagree with you.
I'd also give
Branch and Goff.
Yep.
I mean, they all played very well. Hey, welcoming to the stage, Big Wes Kivnan.
Wes.
Oh,
How's it going up there in Canada, my friend?
it is awesome. Defense played great today.
Absolutely. So, welcome to the show, Wes. Thank you for tuning in. DC just gave his answer. The question is, who are the biggest winners? You'll be up after Jeremy. Jeremy, what about you? I know you just kind of said part of an answer, but what were the biggest winners for you today for the Lions?
The D-line in general. Aaron Glenn in general, because he finally grabbed his hands onto both of his ears, pulled real hard and got his head out of his ass and got some pressure. I mean, we had 7 sacks today. We haven't had 7 sacks in a game since, let's see. I think Ndamukong Suh and Ziggy and everybody else was here.
2013, 14.
Yeah.
So about 10 years. So I'll admit, I commend the defensive line. I also commend the linebackers because it's like, listen, linebackers had 3 of those sacks. They had 3 of them. Yeah. So it's like, hey, you know what? We're getting pressure from the second level. We're getting pressure from the line. Great work.
And on the D-line, it was Hutch, Benito Jones, and Aleem McNeil, right?
Correct. Hutch had 2, Jones had 1, and McNeil had 1.
And I loved the 5-line set when they put Bugs, Jones, and McNeil in there.
Yep.
With Hutch on the one side and Harris on the other.
Absolutely. Because what it does is when you have that 5 defensive line, it forces the offensive line to have to spread out to accommodate all those down linemen, which means, hey, if you blitz a linebacker, there should be an open hole somewhere. Either way. But good answer, Jeremy. What about you, Wes? What were your biggest winners from today's game?
Well, the biggest winners were the O-line for just surviving. How many right tackles did we use today?
3.
I mean, I thought Lomas Brown was going to have to come down and step in there in a minute.
Yeah, because we started the game with Matt Nelson. He injured his ankle. Then we went to Dan Skipper. He injured his hamstring. And then we finally settled on Corby Soldstoll for the rest of the game.
Yeah, who's really a guard but can play tackle. And you know, he got run over a couple times, but he held his own for the most part towards the end there. But Goff was under a lot of pressure. I'm amazed he can even move the ball at all. Yeah.
Goff got hammered today. Like he was taking shots all day.
Well, look at the line in front of him. And the refs weren't helping either. There was a lot of stupid penalty calls that I didn't think were penalties. But
that's true.
There were some pretty weak calls, holds in that. I don't know.
True. All right. Good answer. Good answer. I like it. What about you, Jay? What are your thoughts? Who were the biggest winners for the Detroit Lions today against the Atlanta Falcons?
Even though I don't like the person running it, I have to say the Detroit defense, they showed up today. They get a praise in my book. Sam Laporta, he showed up big today. He got a player of the game stat. I thought that was really good. I also thought Jahmyr Gibbs showed up, even though they are still not using him the right way. Pretty much everybody.
All right. That's a good answer. I mean, I agree with most of y'all. Again, I thought Aiden Hutchinson had himself a great day. I mean, gets 2 sacks, gets a forced fumble, gets a fumble recovery, so that's pretty damn good. I mean, I love the fact that, you know, despite the offensive line not playing the greatest game, Goff hung in there, made a rushing touchdown, made a passing touchdown, did have that horrible throw for a pick, which he even himself mentioned that was one of his worst throws ever. I thought Laporta is continuing to make great strides. I already think he's a better tight end than Hockenson ever was for us.
Exactly.
And, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to do what he always does. Had another 100-yard receiving game. I think that's now his 8th in his NFL career over 3 seasons. So, I mean, I think everybody played for the most part really well. I mean, obviously I'm trying to have a blanket statement because there were some more specific players that I thought didn't do as well, but we'll get to that in the next one. So very good comments, all. Very good comments. So let's take a look at some of these comments here. Let's see here. Robin's Nest says, how the heck did Laporta get so open? Play action. When you have those linebackers and safety see the run, they bite down, which then means somebody can slip on the backside, which was Laporta, wide open. All Goff had to do was just throw it in the general direction, and it was a beautiful throw. Couldn't miss. Perry Ball sarcastically says, I want to see Goff run more. I don't think so. Like, let's keep that to a minimum, shall we? Wayne Shirk says, grit. Our line was depleted. Panay was owned. I mean, Calais Campbell definitely got the better of Panay a couple of times. Wasn't the best day for Panay, but again, you have to understand he hasn't played left tackle in a long time, so he's kind of knocking off a little bit of rust. Braylon Dennis says defense stood out today. When Shirk says is Decker coming back Thursday, I would say it's probably a better than 80% chance yes, because he sat out the last 2 weeks. I sure hope so too, because we don't have any really other right tackles to play.
No.
Let's see here. Robin's Nest says that Aaron Glenn was the biggest winner. Branch was the bomb. I mean, Aaron Glenn had to come back in a big way because everyone, including myself, was calling for his head.
Yep.
LDV Tennis asks what happened to Nelson and Skipper. Nelson hurt his ankle. Skipper hurt his hamstring. Let's see here. Brent DeWitt says Branch, Hush, Goff, Gibbs, and Laporta were his biggest winners. He then also says the AG's making me eat my crow, and I'm loving every bite. I love it too right now because it's like, listen, when he does well, we win. That's crow that I like to eat. But it's like, listen, I want to see consistency. I want to see it every damn week. I don't want to see just 1 or 2 weeks and then it disappears for 4 or 5. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. And to that point, another thing we did that we hadn't been doing is we were stunting the defensive tackles almost every third play, which, like I said, takes up 3 of your interior linemen, which puts your DNs in one-on-one situation.
Exactly. And on top
Gives
of
you better
that,
rush advantage.
And on top of that, when you stunt offensive linemen, it gets them confused because now they don't have their blocking assignments as straightforward. Now they got to figure out, okay, who has who when they start doing those stunts. So it confuses them and it slows them down a little bit, which then allows the defense to take advantage. So again, this is something that I know Jeremy has said for a long time. I've said it for a long time too. When we start doing stunts, ain't it amazing how well we start actually doing? But as soon as Aaron Glenn goes away from running stunts, that's when we start having problems because we're not able to get the pressure. We're not able to get in the backfield for tackles for losses. Stunting and being creative with the scheme is a lot better than just trying to do this. Hey, let's just send 4 guys every damn time going one hat on a hat. It's like, no, you got to get a little more creative with that shit. Elizabeth Oberlin asked the question. I'm not sure how to phrase this question. Did we play good? Is Atlanta a bad team? If we played this way last week, could we have gotten to Geno?
Yes, and yes.
Yep.
We played a good game.
Atlanta's a fringe team. They are a favorite in that division for a reason because their talent on defense raised up to the same level of the defensive talent that's on the Saints roster overall. Their O-line is better than it looked today but they're not good in pass protection, mostly from the left side, as we saw.
Yep. I'm gonna say this. The Falcons are a good team. As Jeremy said, they have a shot to win the NFC South Division. As I said in my previous episode, and I stand by it, and it's the truth, the Achilles heel, the weakest link of the Falcons, it's not their defense, it's not their running game, it's not their wide receivers, it's Desmond Ridder. Without a decent quarterback that can throw the ball, they are a one-dimensional offense. And we saw what happened today. When the Lions took away the run game, Ridder had to try and step up and make throws, and he couldn't do it. So, and to answer your last question, yeah, if we had done this stunting last week, we absolutely would have gotten a Geno Smith, but we didn't. That's part of the reason why we couldn't.
Very high possibility we could have been 3-0 if it would have happened.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, we only lost
maybe
by
if we
6.
win a coin flip, we could be 3-0. I think we would have scored. We got the ball first against Seattle too.
Both defenses were gassed in that Seattle Lions game. It didn't matter who went in. It was kind of like in that playoff game versus the Bills and Chiefs. Whoever won the coin flip was going to win.
Yeah, we beat ourselves that game with those 2 turnovers.
Yeah, the turnovers.
The
turnovers didn't help
in the second half.
Yeah, the turnovers didn't help, but I mean the
That was
fact
a
that
14-point swing right there.
But the fact that the Lions offense was able to drive down the field, get those last 10 points to force overtime was slightly redeeming. Again, like you guys said, both defenses were kind of tired because it was such a physical game. As you said, the coin flip kind of decided it, which is why a lot of people think that the coin flip shouldn't be the ultimate deciding factor. But it is what it is. That's the way the NFL has done it for decades.
Yeah.
Brent DeWitt asks the question, how much do you think the crowd affected the Atlanta Falcons?
Affected
a lot.
Yeah, Ridder's having trouble for sure.
Well, I mean, go back to it. How many times did the Falcons have to call timeout because they were about to have a delay a game? How many times did they have to, do something different because they were having problems with the formations, getting personnel in and out? That place in there, when it's at 110, 120 decibels and it's reverberating, it's loud as hell.
I went to a University of Michigan game and a Detroit Lions game in the same weekend one time. And I'm telling you, the 108,000 people outside in the bowl at Michigan could not even come close to how loud it sounded to a sold-out crowd at Ford Field.
For sure, the echo was the roof and everything, for sure.
Yeah, because it just reverberates back to you.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've been inside Ford Field only one time, and Jeremy knows this was at Family Day last year, and that place wasn't even sold out. It only had about half the crowd seats filled, but it was still pretty loud in there.
Yeah, it was just a lower bowl on both sides. It wasn't even in the end zones, really.
Exactly. And it's like, it's still pretty loud in there with half the seating filled. Imagine how loud it is when you got the full crowd in there. Again, that's why they had the decibel meter up on the big screen. You got 110, 120 decibels just reverberating all throughout the game. It literally hurts your ears.
They got to start miking the place.
What do you guys think about Tracy Walker with those stone hands? He should have 2 picks.
Actually,
They had 3.
perfect question, because that's going to be our next question.
Oh, okay.
DC started off the last time, so then now it's going to be up to Jay. So here we go. Jay, who are your biggest losers from the win against the Falcons today?
I'd have to go with the offensive line, not protecting, not opening up run games, and Tracy Walker not getting the picks, especially the gimme. That tip drill, that should have been caught.
Well, the tip drill was one, but the one that really pissed me off was the one that literally hit him right in the freaking chest.
Yeah, right in the numbers.
Like for crying out loud, I literally watched the All-22 film last week with Desmond Ridder against the Packers. He did that twice, once to Jair Alexander and the other to Quay Walker, and both of them dropped it. I don't know what the hell it is, but I guess whenever he throws passes to defenders, nobody wants to pick the ball off.
I mean, I know he ain't got to worry about it anytime soon, but with the safety room as deep as it is, I think right now he's playing for a position. Like, I know he's not going anywhere anytime soon, but if it was Kirby Joseph, that would have been 3 picks easy.
Probably. All right, good answer, good answer. What do you think, Wes? What are your thoughts?
Well, for sure, the biggest loser was the O-line, but it's not really their fault. They had a lot of guys banged up and injured. Guys are in there for the first time. I think Skipper probably wasn't in shape. He just got signed, this week? And he probably pulled his hamstring first time he played. So I don't know. They tried, but they were shorthanded for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for crying out loud. You're already down 1 tackle. You have to switch him over, and then you're down 2 more tackles by the time you get to the third quarter. It's like, okay, here it's like next man up, next man up.
And you got a backup right guard in there too. I mean, we were shorthanded for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't really consider the backup right guard a problem because Graham Glasgow is a starting right guard. So for me, that to me doesn't pose a problem. The tackle is the biggest issue because you've got Penei Sewell moving over to the left, which while he can play it, it's not his true position now because he's played right tackle now predominantly for the last 2 years. So that's a problem. And then as we've already noted, Matt Nelson is a shitty tackle, and you just said Skipper's not really played a whole lot, so he was probably not ready for the game physically.
Vaitai could play tackle too, but probably no better than the guys that did today. He's a better guard for sure.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, what about you? Who are the biggest losers for you in this win against the Falcons?
I can't believe someone hasn't said it. Jerry Jacobs, who accounted for 85 of the 119 penalty yards the Lions had.
Oh, I was going to get to him.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the yips of the Tracy Walker drops, but overall, he had a good game. Yet, Jerry Jacobs was horrible in coverage. You know what he was good at? Tackling. Thank God.
7 tackles.
He was second in the team with 7. Brian Branch had 11. You want to talk about efficiency? When you have 2 sacks, one's a strip sack fumble, and you only have 4 total tackles in the game, 3 solo, 1 assisted. That's pretty efficient for Aiden Hutchinson.
No, I agree. And I mean, you are right, Jeremy. I mean, Jerry Jacobs was efficient tackling. He had 7 tackles, all 7 solo tackles. Same thing with Branch, 11 tackles, all 11 solo tackles. So it's like, I'm glad to see that the Lions tackling is not a problem, at least in this game. But I'll say my piece further on. What do you got, DC? Who are your biggest losers in today's game?
Well, the O-line, the play that really stands out to me is when the dude beat both Ragnow and Jackson double team. Just right through it. That shit can't happen with 2 Pro Bowlers. I know
exactly what you're referring to. On that play, Goff was throwing it, and they got through both of them and still walloped Goff.
Exactly. That's a play that pissed me off the most. As far as Tracy Walker, bottom line is the dude hadn't been on a football field that much in a year. I don't think he would have dropped all 3 of those before he got hurt, and I don't think he'll drop it again.
He did make some nice hits that game. He played
a great game.
He laid the wood on some of those guys over the middle, causing several incompletions. So,
I'm not mad at really anyone. Jacobs, it's due to the cornerback room. I thought one or two of the penalties he got was pretty much deserving. The other ones, I thought they were just ticky-tack.
Well, the
You
one
Once
that
you get Mosley back, Jacobs won't be starting anyways, I don't think.
I think Mosley will be back Thursday night. I think that he will
so.
be because the last couple of weeks they've had him practice a little bit. I think more than anything, they're just wanting to make sure his legs are underneath him. But
I absolutely agree with Grit, though. Minnesota
yeah.
Vikings
Even
are
if he made
today's
a couple
biggest
plays
loser.
today, I was shocked.
oh yeah, Minnesota Vikings are definitely today's biggest loser.
Look at it this way.
0-3.
Kirk Prescott and Dak Cousins did the same thing. They threw a pick in the red zone at the end of the games.
Yeah, but here's what makes it worse for Kirk Cousins. You have Brandon Staley goes for it 4th and 1 on his own 24, turns it over. You've got literally 24 yards to go to get to the mother flipping end zone, and you cannot do it. Now, granted, to be fair, TJ Stonehand Hawkinson definitely helped out a little bit, but it's like, dude, it's like Kirk Cousins. It's like you're paid all this damn money, and you can't drive 24 mother flipping yards to get in the end zone to win the game. And oh, by the way, you're now in the basement with the Chicago Bears, who are getting their asses handed to them, to the freaking Chiefs 41-10. And the second biggest loss of the day outside of the Dolphins and the freaking Broncos game.
That
And
was
then-
hilarious. 70 points. Wow.
And the Dallas Cowboys are giving Josh Dobbs his first win of his career as a starter.
Yep, they're up 28-16 with 2 minutes to go.
Who had that?
Wow.
Who bet on that? I sure as hell wouldn't have picked that.
Nobody.
I wouldn't have picked it either. The Cardinals are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and yet
If
they're
not
supposedly beating
They're-
the freaking Cowboys. And you want to know what I hear? You want to know what I know the Cowboy fans are going to say? Oh, it's because we lost Stephon Diggs to that ACL tear. That's why our defense isn't playing as well. Bullshit. This
They're
is what the
running all
Cowboys
over you.
do. They start off hot, and then they start having problems.
No, they were running all over them. They couldn't get a pass rush because they didn't need to pass. They were just running it down their throat, at least in the second quarter when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either
Too bad
way.
Green Bay got lucky
Ricard-
today and won that game when New Orleans missed that field goal.
yeah. If it wasn't for Derek Carr getting hurt in the third quarter,
Yep,
they were getting rolled.
they were.
Yeah,
But
but New Orleans had him beat anyways. A minute to go, like what, a 40-yarder, and he shanked it way wide. It was terrible. Like I couldn't believe he missed that.
yeah, we'll talk about that there later in the show, but you bring up a good point there, Wes. I'm going to say this. As far as my biggest losers for the game, offensive line, even though they're banged up, it's like, listen, we've seen this offensive line be banged up before. They've had to shuffle shit around. They've gotten it done before. Against today, it's like, listen, I get it. The injuries are a problem, but it's still no excuse. You got to go out. You got to make it happen because, listen, Goff is what makes that offense work. If Goff goes down, we're screwed. Like, I have confidence that Teddy Bridgewater could do a decent job, but it's like, listen, there's a huge gap in the difference of talent between Goff and Bridgewater. So that shit needs to get figured out, which I'm sure Decker coming back will help out immensely. But again, the thing I have against Jerry Jacobs is, great tackling, but it's like, dude, regardless of the ticky-tacky, calls for the penalties, it's like, dude, I thought freaking Jerry Jacobs was trying to do his best Emmanuel Warrior impression because it's like, dude, all the penalties were just driving me nuts. It's like, dude, you've got to do a better job covering without having to grab all the time. And I mean,
Yeah, that's the problem.
And I mean, the other thing about it that kind of bugs me is the kind of penalties because I know freaking DC is going to remember this. Remember when Bijan got pulled down by his jersey and they called it horse collar, and then it literally happened to about a drive later, freaking St. Brown got pulled down by the actual horse collar, and they didn't call that shit. It's like, come on now. It's like, if you're going to call it one way, call it the other way too.
Exactly.
I'm watching that video that LDB tennis told us to watch for a laugh.
Yep. Let's see here. Let's see here. Brent DeWitt says Cody needs some trial by fire. It will accelerate his learning curve.
He actually cleaned up quite well after his first couple of series towards the end there.
Yeah, he improved.
When we
as the
started
game went
running.
on.
Yeah, that is no way his natural position at all.
Yeah.
He could play both, but that's probably his last position. But
he could
towards
play
that second
tackle in
part, he was
Division
doing
2 maybe, but not in the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason
I
says
thought he cleaned it
Chicago
up.
looks terrible, which, I mean, we already knew that. The only one that didn't know that was the Bears fans.
Yeah. By the way,
Justin Fields is going to be the MVP of the year. Bullshit.
Not only did
Hall
the
of
hard
Fields.
drive, not only is that hard drive of that MVP season stuck in a loading cycle, it just broke down. The Ram crashed. He got hurt.
Yeah, I know.
And Blaine Gabbert.
Chuck Osborne says, is Kirk Cousins becoming a joke? Becoming. He already was one.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's
When
see
wasn't
here.
he?
He made his money.
Patty Grimes says protect Goff at all costs. Yeah, that would be a pretty good assessment. Grit says Jerry Jacobs' tackles are also because he allows so many completions. Just saying. I mean,
he had
He made some run stops too. He made some
very good.
He had
about to
4
say-
tackles on run stops, so he only had 3 on the ones that he didn't. Wasn't
You
able to
just got to
catch.
learn not to be so grabby in his coverage. Once
That's
you get
true.
over that 5 yards, you can't do that. You're going to call it every time.
I think for Jerry Jacobs, he's good enough to be on the field. He's just not good enough to be against bigger receivers because last week they had him on DK Metcalf. He got burned. Today, they had him on Kyle Pitts. He got burned. Like, I'm sorry. I called it and DC was there. If Desmond Ridder had completed that first bomb to Kyle Pitts, if he hadn't overthrown him, that would have changed everything because then at that point, it's like, okay, now we got a guy who can actually throw the ball deep. Whereas the rest of the game after that, freaking Desmond Ridder couldn't complete a pass more than 10 yards down the damn field.
Yep.
Let's see here. Braylon Dennis says Vikings are effing frauds, which, yeah, they are.
We knew that. I said it last year when they went into the playoffs. They'd probably lose to the team we beat.
Yeah,
because
the
you
horseshoe
can't have
wiggled its
11.
way out of their ass.
No, and that's the thing. They lost to the Giants, and the Giants don't look good this year either. Robbins Ness says Justine Fields is not a quarterback. Could be an average running back, though. Yeah, that's about true. LDV Tennis then reminds us that Fields is 50% for 99 yards.
Wow, that's a good game for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Alan McMillan says we're lucky to have Goff, period. Braylon Dennis says Green Bay is also effing annoying. Big Dan Davis says, how about that defense for us? 7 sacks as a unit. Can't believe I'm saying this, but AG called a good game today. Wow. Well, Dan, he usually does that. He usually has 1 or 2 good games, and then he disappears for about 4 or 5. Rodney Fouch says, agreed to Braylon on both counts. Hayden Hot Dog says, the purple pussies. Big Dan Davis says, the Cowbums are about to lose to the Cards team led by the Ethiopian. Wow.
Alien. Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Chuck Osborne
picking on a
says,
guy for a disease.
yeah. Chuck Osborne says, we know Justin Fields is a joke. I knew he was a joke coming out of college. I was like, listen, all this hype about Justin Fields, I was like, listen, I'm telling y'all, he's going to get to the NFL and he is going to fall apart. It's happened to every other OSU quarterback. Now, to be fair, CJ Stroud looks like he actually might be the first one to break the curse so far, but we'll see.
Like I said, he was more developed in high school than any of the quarterbacks the Ohio State guys have had. He just got to play 2 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm saying he might work out.
He might.
We'll see what happens.
But I already have him as, at least 8 times better than Justin Fields as a quarterback already.
Well, the problem with Justin Fields is this. Justin Fields has been in the NFL now for 3 years, and he is still making the same pass progression read mistakes that he made as a rookie, now 3 years into the NFL. And it's like, listen, I can understand that in your first year as a rookie. I can understand that in your second year because you're still learning. 3 years in the NFL, you should know how to mother flip and read a defense. You should know how to find soft coverages. You should know how to recognize man coverage. But he still cannot do it. His first instinct every time is to run and try and pick up yards. And it's like, listen, we've seen what happens to running quarterbacks when they do that. They don't last. You have to develop your ability to pass. Otherwise, you can't play quarterback. I'm sorry. Being mobile is great and all, but if you can't pass, you're not a quarterback. I'm sorry. Braylon Dennis asked, am I going to catch a Lions home game this season? Probably not this year. Maybe next year because I am going to be much closer to Michigan. I'm going to be moving up to New York here in about a month, maybe a month and a half. So I might be able to catch one next year, but probably not this year. We'll see, though. Patty Grimes says, remember the SOL fans wanted Fields? Yeah. I remember that because they're all like, replace Matthew Stafford. Let's get the mobile quarterback. And I'm like, no.
Fields was drafted the same year we traded for Goff.
I thought it was the year after. I thought it was the year before.
Nope. It was 2021.
Well, whatever. Still, I'm glad we have Goff over Fields.
Yeah, it was the year we took Sewell, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They traded up to 12 for that.
Yeah.
With
Hayden
Philly.
2021.
Hayden Hot Dog says, I'll take Fields as a gadget QB, nothing else. Oh, so you mean a Taysom Hill?
Exactly. Read option. That's his best play.
Brent DeWitt says, only reason Fields was good in college is because he was always throwing to wide receivers that were first-round draft picks that were always open. I mean, you're not wrong.
That sure as hell helped.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Let's see here. So Jay started us the last time, so now we're back to DC. So here you go, DC. Rookies for the Lions all stepped up today and played very well for the Lions in the wins. But which rookie, in your opinion, performed the best?
Well, I'd like to ask that question of B. John Robinson if he found his goddamn helmet. That was one of the best hits I have seen in years. I love
and
it.
they still called it for a personal foul for a hit to the helmet.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a fair
I'll take
call.
it. It didn't cost anything. The hit was worth everything.
Yeah.
Well, think
He
about it.
ducked down into it, and our guy led with his arms. It wasn't a helmet.
Well, think about it. Even though it was a penalty, you know what that play did? It sent a message to the Falcons like, listen, you're going to get dominated. You're going to get smacked in the mouth. One ass cheek and 3 toes, I will beat your ass.
As a payback, B. John ain't going to win this game.
Nope.
Or you're going to have to use your quarterback.
All right. So DC says Brian Branch. What about you, Jeremy? What was the best rookie in your opinion?
Well, yeah, Branch is at the top. Then it's Laporta.
Yep.
You go right down the list. Then it was. Then you can say it was a tie with Gibbs and Campbell because Campbell got a sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
Exactly.
Campbell got a sack, made a couple of good plays in the run game. Didn't play as much as I thought he was, but still definitely made plays. Okay, good enough. Wes, what do you think?
It's got to be Branch. I mean, with 11 tackles and I don't know how many pass breakups, and he was outstanding. That guy's a steal in the second round.
He was a first-round talent. He was a first-round talent, and we got him, what was it, 10, 11 picks
45.
into
The
the
best
second
part
round?
is we traded with Green Bay to get him. I
Exactly.
mean, Green Bay needed a safety too. How stupid are they?
Ask
I can't
Grossi
believe
that
it.
one.
Yeah, ask Tom Grossi how he
Yeah.
feels about us having
Yeah,
Branch.
that was a funny video. I watched that.
Did you see his
He was
reaction?
losing his
To
shit.
Did
Yeah, it
you
was
see the
live. I remember
reaction?
during the draft I saw that. He was
No,
losing
not
his
that
shit.
one. I'm talking about the reaction when he was watching the Kansas City game when Branch got the pick 6.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, "Oh, look at 32 go! He's got it. Who is it? Who is it?" He goes, "Oh my God, it's fucking Branch."
Well, here's the worst part about that. That particular play, now Brian Branch's jersey from that game and the ball that he intercepted is in the NFL Hall of Fame. It's in the Hall of Fame. And I'm just like, are they setting up his slot for about 25 years down the road? I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but still funny.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
badass.
Wes, you just answered. So, Jay, what about you? What rookie impressed you the most or did the best in today's game? Jay? Okay. He might have stepped out. Whatever. That's fine. I'll answer it. If he comes back, I'll get to him. So, I'm going to say this. I mean, obviously, Branch was the best one, but I'm going to say this right now. As far as the ability to continue to improve, because, I mean, Branch showed the ability to play well in the preseason. He showed the ability to play well in week 1. But the thing that I was most impressed about was the fact that Laporta continues to show continual improvement. Every week, he's getting better and better and better. And it's like, listen, when we traded Hawkinson last year, there were a lot of Lions fans that weren't particularly thrilled about it because Hawkinson was considered, still a decent target. Granted, wasn't a great blocker, but still a decent receiving option. But it's like, we went back to the well, drafted Laporta from the same college that Hawkinson was from. But it's like, listen, Hawkinson could not block. He also has the propensity for not getting the yardage that we needed when it comes time to catch the pass, because that's one thing about Laporta I've been mostly happy about. The guy does not know when to fucking go down. He is a freaking yak machine. And for me, it's like, we've seen the tough grittiness that Laporta has, but now we've also seen the ability for him to be a deep threat as well with today's game, because it's like, listen, 45-yard pass, he's wide-ass open, nobody's near him. It's like, listen, the guy's got speed, he's got the hands, he's got the ability to block. I enjoy that about him. It's nice to actually have a decent tight end after we've been burned by the last 3 that we've drafted. Didn't matter if it was Eric Ebum, it didn't matter if it was Brandon Pettigrew, it didn't matter if it was Hawkinson. It's like, okay, we seem to have finally hit on one with Laporta. So I'm happy about that. I mean, I do agree Brian Branch had the best game, but the one that impressed me the most was Laporta. But, all right, let's take a look at some of these comments here really quickly. Everyone says the same thing. Branch, hands down. Branch. Robin's Nest says that the hit was legal, shouldn't have been called as a penalty. Elizabeth Oberlin says Branch. Perry Ball says Branch and Laporta have both been an impact from day one. Rodney Fouch says Branch, love that kid. Patty Grimes says we got our running QB in Jared Goff. I mean, if you want to call that option play once every couple of games, I'm fine with it. Kind of like how Peyton Manning used to call that boot action every couple of years. I'm cool with that. But I don't want to see Goff running unless he absolutely has to. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. The element of surprise is great when he does do it, but he runs
well,
like
the fact of the matter is that when he did it, he freaking faked out Calais Campbell. A freaking 16-year veteran, he faked him out of his shoes, and it's like, okay, here, like that's pretty funny.
Rodney, somebody asked if Laporta was this year's Jared Goff's shark.
Yeah, is Laporta Jared Goff's new DJ Shark?
He's better than DJ Shark was here last year. Let's go over it game log wise. 8 targets, 4 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown. That's a decent game. Next game, 0 catches. 4 targets, 3 drops. The next game, 6 targets, 3 catches. The next game, 1 target, 0 catches. Then
pretty much what I'm hearing.
He disappeared.
Yeah, pretty much what I'm hearing is Chark
was injured half the year too. He missed a lot of games with injury.
With the same injury he's had for the last couple of years, that damn ankle.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Laporta's definitely better than Chark because Laporta has better hands. He can catch contested. He can pick up extra yardage, and realistically, he doesn't have the injury problems.
Well, one's an outside wide receiver, one's a tight end, too. It's like comparing apples to oranges, too. It's kind of a silly
Yeah, that's true. Grit says rookie tight ends don't typically play like that. No, they typically don't. But at the same time, I'm glad that he is playing like that. LDB Tennis says Dallas fans faced with the reality that Dak is not clutch. That's been the reality for the last 4 years. They just have not been willing to accept the reality.
Shark wasn't a clutch receiver is what I'm getting at. Shark was never clutch. He was clutch in 3 games. Other than that, he disappeared. I'd say Laporta is our version of probably the closest I can come to is somebody that blocks downfield like that and makes the catches, Tony Gonzalez type of thing, because that's the type of tight end he reminds me of.
I know somebody tried to say that. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember. It might have been in my last live stream, but somebody tried to say that he was on Kelsey's level. And I'm like, no. He might have Kelsey traits, maybe, but he's not on Kelsey's level. He's got about 2 or 3 more years before he's there.
Kelsey's not looking too hot.
I'm sure he's still not 100% healthy from that knee injury.
I mean, in all fairness, where was Kelsey and Kittle their first 3 games?
I don't even remember.
Not as good as Laporta.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would.
Kittle's a better comparison to Laporta because he's a great blocker too. But.
Yep.
Yeah, the only difference is that
he runs through tackles in that.
I don't want to compare him to anybody that averages 3 games missed a year.
Which is what Kittle does. Like Kittle plays well, but he has an injury history.
He's always hurt. You're right. Yeah.
Rodney Fouch says that Laporta is so humble too. Eric Poster says, "Can someone give me an RMFT?" Ha 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 ha. I don't even know what that means.
I don't even know what RMFT is.
Neither do I. Brent DeWitt says Branch and Laporta are his 2 favorite. Branch, God. Jizzleman Genetic says, I still have to see how the season goes.
Nice name.
That's why I was just like, Jesus. Like, damn. That has got to be one of the best and worst names I have ever heard doing live streams. Like, that is a great name to get attention, but it's one of the worst names to announce as the announcer. Like, God. Just
sounds like
Jizzleman Genetics. Like,
what the hell
Jiminy freaking crickets. Hayden Hot Dog says the Laporta touchdown looked like the exact same play where Jamel got his touchdown versus the Purple Pussies. It almost was. The only difference is on that play, Jared Goff just did a straight drop back play action. The Laporta play was a boot out to the left. And the fact that Goff was able to get his hips around and get enough arm strength downfield, like that was like good ass level throw. Like if Mahomes had done that, the whole NFL world would have been like, oh, look at Mahomes. But it's like, oh, Goff did it, whatever.
Oh, RMFT is roll motherfucking tide.
Oh,
no, we wouldn't know that because we're not a
fan. Bama fan.
You know, once they became Lions, I no longer associate them with that team.
Yep. That was the college days. Now he's a Lion. Perry Ball says, with the Sun God, Laporta, and Gibbs playing well, that will help JMO. Yeah, because he doesn't have to come straight back in and perform right away. Plus, if you got all those other guys on the field, you can't focus all your attention on freaking JMO.
Yeah, if we thought Khalifa's open today, wait till you see JMO.
Yeah, I think Jim was allowed to practice this week, isn't he? They said before week 4.
I just read something that was an update on that. He cannot be in team practices, but he can be in practice with Goff and the other wide receivers and drills.
Okay. Like individual on the sideline,
now
like
he can do like individual practicing, and he can be in the facility getting treatment, but he can't do team practicing yet.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
I just
that's
wanted
better
to
than
reiterate.
nothing.
Right.
Well,
I just wanted to
be in the facility
reiterate.
at all. So
No, I get you. I'm just simply reiterating what you reiterated. It's good. It's better than nothing. It allows him to kind of slowly reacclimate himself back into the process.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Cheers, Jay.
Yeah. J.I. says, what's up with James Mitchell? Nothing. It's just Sam Laporta's that damn good.
And Brock Wright blocks better, so he's tight end 3. He'll barely see the field.
Yep. LDV Tennis says the timing on the Goff pass to Raymond was unreal. The ball was there as soon as Raymond turned back to the ball. The only pass that Goff missed on with Raymond was that first deep bomb. He was just a little bit out in front of him.
Yep.
But otherwise, like, Goff's timing with all the receivers is pretty damn good. Like, he's hitting balls, like, just out at an unbelievable clip. Like,
he
I checked it
overthrew it
out.
on the interception, too, but he had a guy in his face. It wasn't really his fault.
Yeah, and Goff actually owned up to it. He's like, listen, that's the worst ball I've ever thrown. And it's like, that was a terrible ball, but it's like, listen, he was getting banged up like the entirety of the game. It wouldn't be a surprise that some of them sailed on him, which some did. Yeah, but I mean, even if you take that out, Jared Goff so far through 3 games of the year, he's completed 69.9% of his passes. He's almost completing passes at a 70%.
How many touchdowns?
5. He's got
how many interceptions?
2.
So he's at 2.5 to 1. And I said, as long as he never dips below 2 to 1 touchdown ratio, he's having a good year.
Well, let's see about it. I just checked it out on ESPN. He's got 69.9 completion percentage rate, 800 plus yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 102 passer rating, and a 69 QBR rating.
Mm-hmm.
So through 3 games, Jared Goff's playing like a top 10 quarterback. So far, so good. All right. Let's move on to the next topic here. So, Wes, you'll be up first. Here we go. Many expected the Falcons were going to run the ball all over the Lions, being a top 5 rushing attack. However, the Lions held the Falcons to only 44 rushing yards. And so my question here is this. Have the Lions actually solved their rushing defense after 3 straight games with less than 100 yards rushing on the defense? What do you think, Wes?
I think absolutely have. The D tackles are doing a better job. The linebackers are doing a better job, for sure. They're stacking up the middle of the field, forcing guys outside, and then they're setting the edge out there. They've done an excellent job stopping the run 3 games in a row.
All right, good answer. I like it. What do you think, Jay? Do you think that the Lions defense has finally figured out how to be a good run-stopping defense after 3 straight games of no 100-yard rushing?
I do think that the Lions figured out how to stop a run game. The pass game is a wait and see.
All right, fair enough. Jeremy, what are your thoughts? And if you want to add, how do you think they've done it? Because I know that's probably going to be part of your answer.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. When you're stunting the defensive tackles, that frees up your DNs and your linebackers to get through and be able to stop people. Do they whiff every now and then? Yes. Tackling is still an issue with this team. Yeah, there was solid tackles made, but we are doing so good against the run. I have no issues in the run game. My issues is with the passing game, but today it looked fantastic. Why? We got pressure. Pressure helps a weak secondary.
That it does. A pressure, again, people have said it before, a good pass rush is a secondary's best friend. It's the truth. So I agree. What do you think, DC? Do you think that the Lions have finally figured out how to stop the rush on defense?
Yeah, but it can be better. It's really a match of game plan and adjustments. The execution is solidly there, but if they will adjust, if they continue to adjust more and match what the team's doing, taking that away, like our second half adjustments today were solid. Our second half adjustments last week, I don't know if they did any adjustments, but
I don't think they did, to be honest.
Yeah, keep adjusting, keep your matchups and keep your stunts, and we should be fine.
I basically called that out because last week versus the Seahawks, we stayed in our base defense 95% of the plays.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, Gino had a day back there last week.
So the games are officially done. Cardinals have beat the Cowboys 28-16. Chiefs beat the Bears 41-10. And let's see, who was the other game? Oh, Seahawks beat the Panthers 37-27. So now the only game that's left is the Steelers and the Raiders, which I fully expect the Steelers are going to absolutely whomp on the Raiders. That's just my opinion. But here's what I'm going to say. In my honest opinion, if you realistically think about it, we've been looking for a rush defense or just a defense like this for years. And the fact that if you think about it, the Seahawks had Rashawn Walker, they had Kenneth Walker, so they had K9, and they also had another good running back. We held them.
Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah.
Yep.
We held both of them to under 100 yards. We held freaking Patrick Mahomes as a rushing quarterback, as being the lead rusher, and the whole team as a general under 100 yards. And then today, against a top 5 rushing unit with 2 really damn good running backs in both Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, we hold them to under 50 yards rushing. So for me, it's like, go ahead.
I was just looking. Perry Ball says, is Bugs going to play? Bugs was in most of the game. He was actually the starter at DT2.
Yeah, the better question you should ask is Broderick Martin going to play?
Which still makes no sense. He needs to be trial under fire to get the snaps and the experience.
Exactly. And for me, again, getting back to my whole point here is that, listen, you have to consider the fact that the Lions are still trying to bring some of these rookies a little bit along. Like, for example, Jack Campbell's not getting the majority of snaps on defense just yet, but he's still making solid plays. As we just said with Broderick Martin, he hasn't even played a down yet, but yet you still got this rushing defense being able to stop a lot of teams being able to run the ball. That is a very encouraging sign. Now, obviously, the pass defense can do a lot better. Part of the reason why, like Jeremy said, we were able to do so well today against the Falcons is, yes, we were stunting. Yes, we were getting pressure. Yes, the 7 sacks definitely helped. But at the same time, let's be fair. Like I said last week, you should not be fucking afraid of Desmond Ridder. The guy can't freaking hit water falling out of a boat. He barely completed over 50% of his passes. He had a 55% completion rate. Like, that's Justin Fields bad.
In fairness, too, Broderick Martin doesn't deserve to play over the other guys that are playing ahead of him. Benito Jones has stepped up. He looks a lot better this year. Bugs is better than Martin at this point of his career. And for sure, McNeil's better. So, I mean, he's like their
He has to earn his stripes. He has to earn his stripes.
Yeah, he's a project. He's going to, maybe next year he'll play more, but he'll get in later as the season goes on, I'm sure.
I specifically brought up the 3 defensive lineman set because if you remember right, that was when Jones got his sack.
Yeah. And if you think about it, at least
He
2
moves pretty
of
good
those,
for a big man. I was impressed.
Well, and also think about this. 2 of those sacks that we're talking about out of the 7 came right up the freaking middle. Benito Jones and Aleem McNeil both came up the middle.
And there was no time for Ridder to go through a read. Say what you want. Ridder didn't have a lot of time in the pocket this week. It wasn't like it was last week. We did things right. We got pressure under 3 seconds.
Exactly. And I told people, I was like, listen, I'm like, the Panthers got 4 sacks against them. I'm like, if the Lions do some flipping stunts, they'll get the sacks. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And boom, we get 7 out of 6 players. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. That's why we invested all the stuff we did into the edge rushing department, into the defensive line department.
Elizabeth Oberlin asks, educate me, please. What is a stunt? A stunt is when the defensive tackles, instead of going straight forward into the A and B gaps, they go to the opposite gaps, which confuses your center and makes them decide to take one of you on as a double team, which frees up your DNs to only have to face the tackles and maybe a running back or tight end.
Yep.
And we'll also get the tackle a straight rushing lane without getting blocked because he goes around the inside. They're not.
Yeah, 1 or 2 guys loop around the other guy, and it confuses the.
Yeah, and you can do stunts with more than the tackles. You can even do stunts with the edge rushers and the linebackers. Like, you can do multiple stunts multiple different ways.
But I was so happy to see that.
I mean, for me, it's just like, listen, the fact that the Lions did some stunts, they brought the pressure, they got sacks on Desmond Ridder, made his life a living hell. That was why we were able to get the win, because Once we took the Falcons out of their comfort zone, which was running the ball, and forced it in Desmond Ritter's hands, there was no way they were going to win. And like I said, that was their Achilles heel. All right, let's take a look at some of these comments really quickly here. Hayden Hot Dog says, Raymond never drops the ball, always reliable. I'd say that's a pretty accurate assessment. I haven't seen him really drop most of anything. Braylon Dennis says, yes, that we have gotten to that point with our rushing defense. Rodney Fouch says, doing good against the run so far. Eric Poster says, not sure because 3 games is not enough. Well, let's put it this way. They were also doing pretty good last year as well. The only game I can think of near the end that wasn't really good was the Panthers game.
That was the abomination.
Yep. Michael Powell says linebackers are doing what they're supposed to be doing, backing up the D-line. Absolutely. Hayden Hot Dog says the defense is going to continue to be inconsistent. It's about matchups with us. Chuck Osborne says Dave Goff had an interception. He came back to make up his mistake by correcting and scoring. That's true. And again, Goff owned up to the interception. And like I said, it was a horrible throw. But again, he was also getting a lot of pressure in his face. So could he do better? Absolutely. But it wasn't like Goff just whiffed on the throw because nobody was in his face either. Dale asks, what's up, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, Dale. Thanks for asking.
Chuck Osborne says the defense made up from last week. They did a lot better. A hell of a lot better. Burns says, amazing what getting your ass chewed all week does to a defense. Yeah, ain't that funny?
Yeah.
I want to say this right now because I texted into 97 won the ticket the other night. Yeah. My article where I was saying, is AG related to Matt Patricia? And Wojo read the first paragraph on his show. So people say that nobody sees my stuff. They do. And the fact that Wojo goes, wow, this is actually pretty spot on.
Yep. Dale says that Martin not playing is definitely disappointing for sure. It is disappointing, but again, he has to earn his stripes. He has to earn his playing time.
It's pick 96. He's not going to start right away. Come on.
No. J.I. says, I believe it was said that the defense is ranked top 10 against the rush. Yeah, they're ranked. Well, before this game, they were ranked 9th in rushing yards, and I think they were tied 11th in rushing average. So that's only going to get better because today they held the rushing average to 2.2 a rush and only had 44 yards.
And by the way, guys, Behan had 10 rushes for 33 yards because he was hit behind the line often.
Yep, like we brought the heat. We did. Jay Mommy says, did you see that Jefferson looked like he injured his ankle? It looked bad when he was hopping off the field. He did injure it, but he was back in before the end of the game. Problem is it really didn't make a damn difference because the ball didn't go to him anyway.
Yeah.
He became a decoy.
Perry Ball says Martin is a project. He needs time to develop, which most of us already said.
We agree. Yeah.
Hayden Hot Dog says we haven't blown out anyone yet. We'll see the Rooks eventually. We've been seeing the Rooks. The Rooks have been playing very well so far. I mean, Laporta's been consistent every week. Brian Branch was there the first week, kind of disappeared a little bit last week, but showed up in stride today.
We even saw Antoine Green the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We even saw Sorsdahl play most of the game today. So there you go.
Yeah, so it's not like the rookies aren't performing. They're actually performing rather well.
The day 3 guys, they're bringing along slowly. I mean, the guys
of course.
The first 2 days are playing right away.
Brent DeWitt says, I'm pleasantly surprised by AG's rush defense. If I have to keep eating crow because of AG, I'll be singing like one. You gonna be singing? No. Well, I'll be done singing about everything when I see an elephant fly.
Yeah.
There's your crows singing. Let's see here. Dale says, they're saying Martin needs to work on his pad level. The man's like 6'5", 6'6". Really? I can bull spit on that one. Oh, I call bull spit on that one. I mean, look, to be fair, Dale, you're talking also, let's take a look at offensive linemen. Taylor Decker, Panay Sewell, they're 6'5". They're able to get their pad level down. Just because you're tall doesn't necessarily mean you can't get your pad level down. I mean, crying out loud. Dan Skipper's 6'9". LED Tennis says Dallas fans think injuries to the O-line is a valid excuse for a loss. Yeah, right. Goff was missing 2 starters and both backups to one of their missing starters. Yeah, that's true. And we still won. And I mean, that like Jeremy would say, that Atlanta defensive line is no joke. They got a lot of big men up there.
It took a lot for us to be able to finally break them down to get holes open for the running backs to get through. And once it started happening, what'd you see? You saw the speed that we all talked about with Gibbs. He was able to get through a hole. They were finally gashing a hole for him, and he was gone.
Yeah, like at the last 2 drives, they opened up 2 solid holes for him, and he bolted through those lines like literal bolts of lightning. He was gone.
I think they said one was 16 yards and one was 25?
21. His longest rush of the day was for 21 yards. So it's like at the very end of the game, once they were starting to finally get that movement they needed up front, he was through the hole. It's, again, a lot of people want to say that Gibbs can't rush up the middle. No, he can. He's just better suited for outside zone runs, but he can run up the middle. He just needs the space. Burns says, I love having depth, something we haven't had in my lifetime. Yeah, it's nice to have extra players behind the starters.
This is the best depth defensively since 2014-15 season.
And it's the best depth team-wise since the 90s.
Yeah.
We won a game with 6 starters, though. That's pretty impressive.
And chances are we're probably going to get at least half of them back when we play the Packers. We're going to get Decker back. We'll probably get Joseph back, and we'll probably get Montgomery back too, because he was doubtful for this game. So I think he'll be back. I think they just held him out because they wanted to give him extra time to get over that thigh bruise.
Yeah, if they bring him back, I think limited use though. We'll see. I don't want to get him banged up.
Yeah, we'll see what happens
after this game.
All right, so Wes started this last one, so DC, you're up first. So here we go. The first 2 games of the season, the Lions only garnered 1 sack. But this game, they got 7 sacks from 6 different players. What, in your opinion, changed? As if we haven't been talking about it already a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much. We stunted our defense. Did not run in a base defense the whole time. The list goes on. And having a quarterback that you don't need to worry about throwing that much greatly helps and allows you to send in more and create more havoc for it. So that was a huge bonus on that 7 sacks or 6 sacks.
No, 7 sacks, 6 players.
7.
You had it right the first time.
Sorry. Yep.
Nope, you're all right. All right, good answer. Jeremy, go away with it, because I already know you're going to say most of the same thing.
Aaron Glenn finally pulled his head out of his ass and called a good game. That's what it is. I mean, think about it. The first game, look, even Michael Powell says the same damn thing.
He said it literally 1 second after you did.
Yeah, literally, he bent over, he grabbed his ears, and he made a loud popping noise like they used to tell us in basic training. That's the sound of your head being pulled from your anal cavity.
Yep, they still kind of use that same phrase in basic training today.
Yep, and they probably do. That being said, they did everything right. For once, they did everything right. We have nothing to complain about on defense other than penalties. And young second-year players that were undrafted free agents usually do get penalties.
Yep, that does happen. And, I mean, here's the thing. Overall, I would love to have it to where every fucking game, I can say that about our defense. Hey, you know what? The worst thing I can say is we got a lot of penalties. But you know what? We still actually made the win. We still actually played good ball. I would much rather say that than have to go down a fucking laundry list of, Aaron Glenn didn't do this. The defensive line didn't do that. The linebackers missed this assignment, blah, 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 blah. It's like, listen, I would much rather just complain about how the refs are being stupid than about, hey, you know what? Something else comes up. Big Dan says, the old saying, the sun shines on a horse's ass sometimes. Well, the sun shined on AG today. He learned how to make adjustments and finally used the hitch right. Hallelujah. Okie dokie. Jay, you're up next. What do you think? He meant Hutch right. Yeah, got it. Got Hutch right. So, Jay, what about you? What do you think changed as far as the Lions to get their 7 sacks today, which I think that's now like top 5 in the league, top 10 as far as total sacks, because we now got 8 after 3 games.
I think it's the same thing like DC and Jeremy said. Basically, we did some stunts with the defense. AG, I think he got his ass chewed out a little bit. He decided to show up and actually game plan for a game. I mean, that's about it.
All right, fair enough. Wes, what do you say? What do you got?
Well, everything you guys said is true, but you also got to realize the competition was different too. Some quarterbacks are easier to sack than others. Mahomes is very elusive. Geno Smith is pretty good on his feet too, and Desmond Ridder doesn't know how to avoid pressure. He was a sitting duck in there. Mahomes somehow miraculously escapes all the time, and so is Geno. And they're both better passers too. So The competition
No,
has something to do with it too.
And that's so weird because Ritter actually isn't slow. He just reacts slow.
Yeah, he just
No,
reacts
and
slowly,
that's
right.
that's
It's the
definitely
ability to
true.
elute pressure. Yeah,
That's
some people
definitely
can
true.
just step
I
up,
mean,
step back. They know what to do.
I mean, the thing about it is, realistically, is that when you take a look at the total measure of what we went through today, I mean, obviously, one of the best parts about why we were able to get those sacks is because, well, one, as we've all been saying, we did something different with the line and the linebackers. We were stunting. We were bringing pressure from multiple angles, multiple fronts, so that definitely helps. But I also think part of the problem is that, as Jeremy and you also, Wes, alluded to a little bit, is the quarterback, Desmond Ridder. Number one, the biggest problem is that Desmond Ridder, even though he played last year in 4 games, he's still relatively a rookie. He doesn't know how to handle pressure. He doesn't know how to go when that internal clock goes off and like, okay, it's been 2.5, 3 seconds. I need to run or I need to get rid of this ball. Because some of those sacks were coverage sacks because Desmond Ridder didn't know when to get rid of the damn ball. And then
the earlier sacks were coverage sacks for the most part.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, when you have a quarterback like Ridder who is inexperienced and he doesn't know what to do, and then when the game is totally on his shoulders, that's when defensive linemen can start really having a day because now they're going up against a quarterback that's like, okay, I don't know what to do. And we normally see this with rookie quarterbacks and even second-year quarterbacks. It's like, listen, they just simply don't know how to handle the pressure. They don't know how to handle when all this is coming down on their shoulders. And it's like, listen, I saw it. I think it was third quarter, early fourth quarter when they sent out the team for the Falcons on a 4th down, incomplete pass. They got back to the sideline, and freaking Ridder was pissed. He was flustered and frustrated. And I was like, yep. At that point, I knew we had him. At that point, it's like, he's off his game. He's upset. He's not going to be thinking as clearly anymore. And when a quarterback's like that, they're done. They're no longer going to be able to play at the same level. At that point, if the Falcons wanted a chance to win, they should have put in Taylor Heineke. But I think they didn't want to shake Ridder's confidence worse than what it was. But it is what it is. All right, let's see here today. Dale says, I'm 50-50 on the Cowboys losing the Cardinals today. I'm 100-0. I love it when the Cowboys lose because Cowboys fans crying is the best thing in the world next to Bears, Packers, and Vikings fans crying. I hate the Cowboys, and I live down here with them. Let's see here. Elizabeth Overland says we have to fix all the penalties we are taking. That is true, and Dan Campbell did address that in his press conference. DC comes back. Nice to have you back, DC.
Sorry, Wi-Fi snag.
That's all right. We got it. Facebook user said, the Falcons aren't really a passing team, which we already knew. Our D is strong against the run, but atrocious against the pass, so let's delay judgment one way or the other regarding defensive coordinator Glenn. Okay, you might have an argument there, but let's be fair here. Aaron Glenn has been doing what he's been doing for the last 3 years. He plays good one game and he's bad another. And plus on top of that, let's also be fair here. This defensive secondary also has got more talent on it than it's ever had. Because let's see, we have Cameron Sutton, Kirby Joseph. Granted, didn't play today. We have Tracy Walker. We have Brian Branch. We have Mosley, who yet again hasn't played yet. But it's like there's more talent on the secondary than there's ever been in the last, I don't know, at least since Darius Slay was here, which was like, what, 5-6 years ago?
And Kansas City's a passing team. We beat them, so I mean,
Also, we gotta keep putting judgment on them because Glenn said that he wanted to be our best defensive coordinator. When you show up one week and go missing for 3-4 weeks, that's not a good defensive coordinator. When we make it to the playoffs, that's gonna fucking hurt us. We need the defense to show up.
Well, again, the thing about it is I've said it before and I'll say it again because I had people get into my previous video about firing Aaron Glenn that I recorded earlier, like, oh, are you going to retract your statement? Like, no, I'm not going to retract my statement. I still say he should be fired until he can consistently do what we saw today, week after week after week after week through the entirety of the season. I will not rescind my statement. He has to do that every single week.
If a team beats us while we're doing that, they earned it.
Exactly. Because think about it. If we go back to the game last week, the Seahawks only earned it because we shot ourselves in the foot. It's not that they outplayed us. We shot ourselves in the foot, and they took advantage of it, which they should have done.
2 failed 4th downs that led to points. 2 turnovers that led to points. I mean, that offense, One was the pick six. So take away 6 of their offensive points because special teams points don't count. You know what I mean? Towards offensive points. The offense gets you down there. The special teams got to earn it. So 6 points was on their defense is all they got out of that. But we gave up another touchdown on the fake field goal we didn't when we tried to go for it. And then when we went for it on the opposite side of the 45, we gave them a short field and they ended up getting a field goal. So that's 10. Plus, if you count not taking the field goal when you're at the range of Patterson, the outer range of Patterson, by not taking that
at our
field
own
goal.
22, Jay. Don't forget we fumbled it open the second half at our own 20.
I understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Either
I'm just
way,
saying-
the point of the matter is that the Seahawks didn't outplay us. We shot ourselves in the foot. That's what did it.
We beat ourselves.
Exactly. I guarantee you, if we'd have played that game clean, we'd have won. The Lions should be 3-0.
What did we not do today? At all?
Turn over the ball except one time.
No. What did we not go for at all? We didn't
Oh,
go
fourth
for any
down.
It's
fourth
very
down.
conservative, yeah. No
Well,
fourth
think
down.
about it. We had
Exactly.
a couple of times where in times past we would have gone for it. And I said this to DC in the game. I'm like, I can tell you why we're not going for it on fourth down. It's because the defense is actually playing good today. Campbell's not having to feel aggressive because he doesn't feel the defense can get a stop. He can play a much conservative game, which, why wouldn't you know it? When we do what we're supposed to do, we don't have to go for it on 4th and 7 and forever. And coming to the stage, we have Chris.
Chris.
What? Warm it up, Chris.
I got to check out you guys.
How's it
Okay?
going, bud?
I'll see you guys next week. Adios.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Wes.
have a good
Thanks
one,
for
man.
tuning in, man. Wes is going to take a break. We'll see him next week, but thanks to him coming in. Chris will replace him in the slot. But, Chris, how you feeling, bud, after the win?
Hey, I think that we did what we had to do. I think that we could have did a little better, but we did what we had to do.
Absolutely. Chuck Osborne says, you said it, Jeremy. AG finally got his head out of his ass. Hayden Hot Dog says, Ryder's kneecap equals bit.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Often. I got 2 bites out of one of them.
Yep. Leonidas says Jack Campbell needs to play more. I agree. I think he needs to get more experience. But to be fair, it's not like the other linebackers aren't playing well. Derek Barnes has been a pleasant surprise. And even Alex Anzalone's playing better as a tackler.
Right.
Derek Barnes is ranked as a top 5 linebacker by PFF.
Which, when you consider that, and Jack Campbell's like, listen, at that point, you don't have to force someone to play. It's like, listen, now you can play sparingly and fit them in when it's the best position for them. LDB Tennis says, Cowboys fans still think Dak is a top 5 QB.
Oh, my God.
They always have.
As much as I hate to say it, if you really look at who's elite, you put all 8 of the playoff teams last year in that 1 through 8, however you want to seed them, for each division.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, because they got their teams there, right?
Yep.
So then you have to look at, okay, who did well the first week in the playoffs? Well, it wasn't the Seahawks.
Wasn't the Vikings.
It wasn't the Cowboys.
Most of the teams that a lot of fan bases want to say they got a top 10 QB for, realistically, when as they say, the shit hits the fan, they really don't show up. And, I mean, we've seen it with a lot of the quarterbacks. Like Dak has a horrible primetime record. Kirk has a horrible primetime record. I mean, it's the proof's in the pudding. If you can't play in the big regular season games, which are the Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night football matchups, what the hell makes you think you're going to show up in the playoffs? Because if I recall correctly, Dak's got, 2 or 3 playoff wins out of 8 visits, and Kirk's got 1 or 2 after being in the playoffs 5 times. So it's like both of them can't win in the playoffs. Both of them can't win in prime time. So it's like if you can't win in the big games, you can't call yourself a top 10 quarterback. You have to win in the big games. And let's face it, neither Kirk nor Dak have gotten past the divisional round. Every time one of them gets to the divisional round, they're always done.
That being said,
that's a great question. If Goff has a noodle arm, why is he overthrowing receivers on bombs?
Right.
Plus, on top
And
of
as far as Patty Grimes saying Herbert, you want to know what that is? Herbert was the only player that draft I wanted over Okuda.
and to be honest, let's put this in even further perspective. If Herbert was with any other head coach other than Staley that was actually somewhat competent and knew how to call a game plan, he probably would have a lot better success this early on in his career. Because if you think about it, again, go back to the Vikings game today. The reason why the freaking Chargers have not been able to get further in the playoffs or further in the regular season is because Staley is so horrible calling games that he's often the detriment of why they can't win. I'm sorry, but when you go for on 4th and 1 on your own 24-yard line and you're only up by 4 points rather than kicking the punt and playing field position, and remind you, Brandon Staley is a defensive-minded coach. Why would you do that rather than playing field position and force the Vikings to have to drain the clock when, oh, by the way, to start that drive, they only had one timeout to begin with. And, oh, by the way, they had 2 players that got injured, Hawkinson and Jefferson, which caused them to actually get a 5-yard penalty because they were out of timeouts. That's stupid. Brandon Staley got lucky there. And the reason he got lucky is because Hawkinson dropped the ball and popped it up in the air, and they got the interception in the end zone. If there was anybody in that entire stadium of U.S. Bank Stadium that breathed the biggest sigh of relief, it was Staley. Because if he'd have lost that game, I guarantee you, Monday morning, we'd have heard that he was getting fired. We would have heard it.
Patty Grimes, that's not what I'm saying. I'm happy we got Goff. I'm just saying in that draft, Herbert was the only guy in the top 10 that I wanted more than Okuda because I knew Chase Young and Joe Burrow was gone.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Burrow has proven his worth, and Chase Young, when he's been healthy, has proven his worth. But, I mean...
T-word, when healthy.
Yeah, but the thing is, with Herbert, I mean, Herbert is kind of like a very young but much better version of Matthew Stafford. He's got the gunslinging arm. He's got the accuracy, but he doesn't make the same bull, stupid mistakes that Stafford did early in his career.
I was just going to say, he's got better QB smarts.
Exactly. So it's like, again, as far as I'm concerned, I agree with what Jeremy is saying. Justin Herbert is a good quarterback, but at the same time, here's the one thing about Justin Herbert I'm not thrilled with. That brand new $250 million contract he just signed. That's the one thing I'm not thrilled about.
Everybody was saying what was so different about our defense. And I'm going to just right here, when I was first going over the Falcons and what they do well, in my preview article, right? Stop the run game of Bijan Robinson and Tyson Algier. These two have been pretty potent so far. Their O-line has a lot to do with that, but I noticed something distinctly about it. Bijan, while looking every bit as good as touted coming out of college, he has struggled to the left side, running at 2.3 yards per carry, but gets 5.2 on the right side. So if I was the DC, I would put my best run-stuffing D lineman at right end over the right tackle. For example, Charles Harris, John Comiskey, and Romeo Okwara there. Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes is too. Guess where they were? Opposite Hutch. Hutch was over the left tackle or just outside the left tackle all day long.
Well, plus on top of that, I actually showed this on my video. If you go to PFF has a handy chart. It's called a rushing direction chart. If you take a look at both Bijan Robinson and at Tyler Algier's rushing directions, almost 85 to 90% of their rushes are to the right side of the formation. Why? Because the Falcons have 2 really good run blocking guys at right guard and right tackle. If you take a look at the left side of the formation, there's virtually almost no production. Virtually almost none. And we saw that today. The freaking Falcons kept trying to run it to the right side of the formation, seldom going to the left. Elizabeth Oberlin says that Sean Payton's presser was entertaining. I'm sure it was. How do you explain to NFL reporters your team got a 70 burger put on it? Not a 40 burger, not a 50 burger, a 70 burger.
Man,
I'm sorry,
that's a Big Mac with all that.
Well, here's the thing. There has not been a game that's had that high of a score, and I think, what was it, like 30, 40 years? Like, a game that high scoring on one team to another in the professional leagues in damn near, like, a long time. So when you as a professional ball club get 70 points put on you in one afternoon, at that point I've got one of two questions. Is this college ball or is somebody playing Madden?
I'll be right back.
Exactly.
Because that's literally what I saw. I'm like, dude, I literally DC can attest to this. I kept saying it because as I watched the score, I'm like, dude, this has got to be somebody playing Madden because nobody scores this much in a professional game. Professional defenses just don't look this bad.
Yeah,
You think they
somebody
fired their
had,
defensive coordinator
had
already?
a joystick in the press box.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Brent DeWitt says, since this is my crow eating night, I hated the golf trade, but now I think we should resign him ASAP because the quicker, the cheaper he'll be.
Yeah.
Yep. As
Lion
much as he
King-
bets about Aaron Glenn, we ain't giving up 70. So,
No, that's true. We haven't yet given up 70.
yeah.
But I will say this: we have given up 50 before.
Yep.
Yes,
And-
we had.
And funny enough, that was against the mother flipping Falcons. Not Falcons, Seahawks. Wrong bird.
Sea chickens. Yep.
Why would we get rid of Cam Sutton?
Let's see
Well,
here.
these
Lion
guys
King
are
says that
proud of
Jacobs is a liability.
No shit.
Dale says, who y'all between Raiders and Steelers? Steelers all day. Steelers.
Well, the Raiders are at home is the only saving grace the Raiders have for them. That and Max Crosby.
Yeah, but still, it's like, listen,
I know.
The problem with the Raiders is that, I'm sorry, I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo because he has not done much of anything over the last couple of years. And realistically, I don't know how Josh McDaniels got another job as a head coach, but he shouldn't have.
Yep.
Robert answers the question. There's not been a high-scoring game like that in the NFL since 1966.
Absolutely.
Burns says 70 is tough to get in Madden. Not for me. I can get 70 anytime I want to. Granted, I have to throw the ball damn near every game, but I can get it. Big Dan Davis says, Russ doesn't cook anymore. He just gets cooked. Facts. Facts. And I'm pretty sure he's getting cooked in more ways than one, though I would call that being baked rather than cooked. I mean, he is in Colorado after all.
He needs to get benched.
That's true, too. But
they can't afford to trade him, so they got to bench him.
Well,
Yep.
that's the thing. Like, if the Broncos keep playing, dude, you guys might call me crazy here, but if the Broncos keep playing the way they are, how crazy do you think it would be if Sean Payton got Caleb Williams as a rookie? Think of that one for a minute. Just saying, you draft Caleb Williams to be the heir apparent once you can finally get rid of Russell Wilson, dude. Elizabeth Oberlin says there's a lot of high-scoring games today. Yeah, Texans game was high-scoring. Dolphins-Broncos game was high-scoring. Bills game was high-scoring. A lot of high-scoring games today. Let's see here. LDV Tennis says, would we want Cameron Sutton if the Broncos are in a start-over mode?
Yes.
Interesting.
It depends on what we got to give up to give them. I mean, like if they're willing to take Teddy Bridgewater for him, sure.
Absolutely.
Dale says Dolphins team is absolutely ridiculous as long as Tua stays healthy. There's the big if. Because I'm telling you this right now. While
that
Tua
O-line has been protecting him well.
They have, to be fair, they have been protecting him well. But the thing of it is, Tua has yet to take one of those shots that has normally knocked his ass out before. I'm waiting for that to happen. Big Dan Davis says, porn star Jimmy, he spent more time at the Vegas brothels than he has at the facility working on his game.
Wow. Can't say I blame him.
Damn.
Isn't it strange that 1 week after they signed porn star Jimmy, that Tom Brady bought a 1% share of the Raiders?
Yeah, and it was not a cheap share either.
So I have said this all along. He hasn't yet signed his resignation papers to the NFL, which is why he can't broadcast for Fox. That being said, he did that because if porn star Jimmy goes down, he'll be the first player owner to ever play in the NFL.
Jiminy Crickets, I hope not. Rich Elmer asks, how about Stephen Gilmore instead of Jerry Jacobs? I would like to see him get some reps too. I would too,
yes,
honestly.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes. Brandon Joseph, him, anybody.
Yep.
I would take a 6 foot tall guy that can run a 5-second 40 out of the stands. I don't care.
Yep. Dale says, damn right to Dan Davis. Lion King says, Jared Goff, a wham block RPO. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Guarantee
Robert
you
says,
that wasn't
let's
on their
hope.
playbook.
That's true. Robert says, let's hope Caleb Williams stays out of the North, LMAO. I'm pretty confident we don't have to worry about that. Because as bad as the Bears are, they'll sneak a win in. As bad as the Vikings are playing right now, they'll eke out a couple of wins as well.
Right now, it's Vikings, Bears, or God, Vikings or Bears for the number 1 pick because Arizona
Broncos
won today.
Too. Broncos too. They're 0-3 as well. And I think there's one other team that's 0-3. But I know for a fact the Broncos are 0-3, the Vikings are 0-3, and the Bears are 0-3.
And the Giants.
Kiss it death.
And the Giants. But the Giants aren't going to draft a quarterback because they just signed freaking Danny Dimes to a 4-year, $160 million contract. Big
But
Man
then again,
Davis
this
says
is
that
fine.
Tua is one nasty hit away from a career-ending injury. Yeah, and it's called a concussion because he almost quit last year.
He almost
Smoke
had
him
to.
some. Smoky Sum says, too bad Tua is made of glass. Correct. Brent DeWitt
Yes.
says, agreed, Rich. Time to give Gilmore a shot. He's not going to be any worse than Jacobs is playing.
Right.
Yeah, that's a decent.
Yeah,
Carolina
Tua
is
is
also 0-3, but they're not going to draft a quarterback either. They just drafted Young.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Panthers started out good and failed, and the Seahawks came back and won.
Yep. Perry Ball says, how long until Mike McDaniels flames out in Las Vegas? End of this year. End of this year. I see it coming. I already can see it coming.
I remember when the SOL fans wanted Tua to come to Detroit.
Yep.
Well, if you think about it now, the way he's playing is okay. The problem is he can't stay healthy. And it's like, listen, I want a quarterback that I can consistently rely on to take hits and get back up. Stafford has that. Goff has that. Tua, it's kind of a 50-50 bet on whether or not he's getting back off the turf.
Well, like I say, Tua is like DeAndre Swift knees. They made of glass.
Yep. All right, so now we're going to have a little bit of fun with this one. So, DC, you're up first, so here we go. There were several plays that stood out today. In your opinion, what was the most surprising play, and what was the most game-defining play?
Surprising play was actually Goff's RPO because I don't think Atlanta and anywhere, any of us, anyone in the stadium or anywhere expected that play and Jared Goff to run it in.
I can agree with that.
Surprise. The game said it was easy. It's knocking Brajan's helmet off. That was easy.
That
15
is
yards
true.
backwards, who cares? I'll take that 15 yards 9 times out of 10.
That's true. That's very true. I don't think anybody thought that play was coming. And what was your most game-defining play?
Oh, that was a Brajan hit.
Oh, you're talking about Brian
Laying out
Branch.
Brajan.
Okay, fair enough.
Laying
Fair
out
enough.
Brajan. That was a game-defining. That's like, yep. That's why we didn't pick you.
Oh, boy. Chris, what about you? What was the most surprising play of the game for you, and what was the most defining game play of the most defining play of the game? Pardon me, I was getting the words all mixed up.
I'm gonna go with Jared Goff touchdown play because they say that he's not a mobile quarterback. That shows that he's a mobile quarterback. And Barnes was killing it.
Okay, fair enough. Jay, what about you? Surprising play, defining play of the day.
There was actually two that surprised me. Jason Kabinda trying to run it for a first down.
I was waiting for someone to say that.
The RPO with Jared Goff. The defining play for me has to be that sack fumble with Hutch. I think that ultimately sealed the deal.
I was waiting for that one to get called too. I was like,
That
if
was a
nobody
close
else
second.
says it, I know freaking Jeremy's going to say it. So Jeremy,
Who's
go
on
ahead.
my shirt? Who's on my jersey? Yes. The surprise plays, yes, the Goff RPO was a surprise. The surprise also because we didn't know he had those afterburners because he didn't run that big burner 40 time. That's why he fell out of the first round with Sam Laporta. Remember, he ran fast, but he wasn't the fastest.
Yep. And then obviously, as you said, your defining play was the Hutch sack for a strip.
Yeah, strip sack. strip sack, fumble, and recovery.
Yep.
It doesn't get much better than that. That's the trifecta.
Exactly.
Yep. I'm going to say this. As far as surprising plays, obviously the Goff RPO was the surprising one. I think what was more surprising is watching Goff try to jump into the stands and he couldn't do it. That was actually kind of funny because Goff tossed the ball into the stands, and then for the first time he tried to actually get into the stands, but he couldn't do it. And I was just like, yeah, Goff, I don't think you can try that. Let's not do that, shall we? So that whole experience itself was a bit of a surprise.
Well,
but
we should all know he wasn't going to make it. He had an 18-inch vertical.
I mean, but on top of that, Goff is 6'4", 6'5". He doesn't have to jump.
You don't need him to do a Gus Farrat and injure yourself celebrating.
Yeah, though Gus Farrat did that by freaking pounding his head into the wall.
That was pretty badass, but it didn't work out too well.
The defining play for me, actually, I'm going to say is the Sam Laporta touchdown, because that, for me, was a defining play, because when that play happened, the entire momentum had shifted completely to the Lions, because up to that point, it was a tie game, 3-3. And then all of a sudden, you have that explosive play, and boom, the entire momentum had completely shifted to the Lions sideline. And at that point, it was pretty much Lions ball game. Because up to that point, both defenses have been playing pretty well. But at that point, the Lions offense actually finally kind of busted it open. And then after that, the defense started making a lot more plays, started getting more pressure, started being able to shut down even better on the running game. So that, to me, was the defining play, because it shifted momentum. Like, don't get me wrong, Hutchinson's play, that was the final nail in the coffin. That was the dagger. Brian Branch's hit on Bijan Robinson, that was like, okay, motherfucker, we're going to send a boom on you.
Yep.
So all those plays are definitely defining. But for me, the Laporta play was the defining one, because it shifted everything in the game to the Lions' favor. Okay, let's see here. We got ourselves a couple of comments. So I also found out there is one other team that is winless. And there's a reason why we didn't think about it. It's the Bengals. They're 0-2 right now, and they might be 0-3 if they can't get Burrow back on the field.
Yeah, he's still listed as questionable.
But again, even if they are in contention for the number one pick, which I don't think they will be, this is like a normal routine for the Bengals. They always start off slow and then come back hot. They're not going to draft. They're not going to draft freaking Caleb Williams. They just signed Burrow to a massive deal too. So it's like, yeah, like the only teams that realistically have a shot at either drafting or wanting to draft Williams are teams that have aging quarterbacks or really bad young quarterbacks.
Right.
So
Arizona
might be the one to do it. But
drafting the number one quarterback.
Well, let's see. They first tried it with Josh Rosen. Then they drafted Kyler Murray. And now they might be in line to go after Caleb Williams. But we also have to bear in mind here that Caleb Williams still has another year of college eligibility, so he might not want to come out.
Might not. He said that if the top three teams in the draft are straight booty cheeks, he's going to go back in. And right now it's looking like it's going to be Chicago Bears, Arizona, and Chicago Bears.
Which realistically, if you think about it, all that is booty cheeks, because the Bears have not been able to figure out their quarterback position since Jim McMahon was the quarterback. And the Arizona Cardinals, they go through quarterbacks faster than a hooker does her underwear.
Yes, they do.
What hooker wears underwear?
The ones that actually have a little bit of class and don't want to be dripping all over the floor. I'm sorry. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Well, I don't have that much experience. I didn't pay that much attention. But
I don't have any experience, DC, but I've heard the stories.
Me either, but, I just figured that was funny.
Anyway, Robert says, I'm glad Skipper is back. I was glad he was back for the 3 or 4 drives that he was in. Patty Grimes says Chicago has Carolina's pick. Yep, that's right.
That's why I said you're guaranteed that it might end up being like Chicago Bears pick, Arizona pick, Chicago Bears pick, Arizona's pick.
Which, dude, that might be
they
ridiculous.
Still won't take any linemen.
That might be funny even of itself. Dale says Justin Fields is just not an NFL QB. He is definitely NFL material, but what position? Running back?
Water boy. Water boy.
Either
I
way,
can't say that's another running back.
He's just not a quarterback. I'm sorry. I've said it before. I mean, you guys saw that one. They now have made it into a TikTok video. They had that one play where Fields is in the gun. He does a play-action play down the line, and you can literally see it right down the seam. There's this wide receiver wide-ass open, but Fields never sees him. He just keeps his eyes to the left-hand side of the field, misses the guy to the right completely. And I'm just like, dude, anybody in their brother except Justin Fields can make that throw.
Right.
Like, just absolutely ridiculous. LDV Tennis says, injuries yet to play a perfect game. Lions have higher ceiling, yet to see it. I mean, injuries always affect a team. It's how you respond to when you have those injuries and can still win. So the fact that the Lions have had injury problems and they're still finding ways to win again shows this is a different type of team. As Dan Campbell has said, we're going to get knocked down. We're going to have adversity, but it's how you respond. Again, I take you back to Rocky Balboa in that movie. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving.
Exactly.
Pretty cheesy phrase, but it's the truth. Let's see here. Big Dan Davis says the Hutch sack where he forced the fumble and got the ball back for us was a surprise and pretty defining, in my opinion. So he takes one for both. Let's see here. Lion King says, will Lions put that golf RPO in the playbook? It already is in the playbook.
It's in the playbook.
Campbell actually said that was in their playbook, and they've actually got a couple of other plays like that in there. They just don't use them all that often. Robert says, I can't wait to see these new uniforms next year. Dude, I'm telling you, I hope there's an all-black uniform. I hope there's an all-black uniform. I hope.
I like that one that I sent you that was one of the finalists they were voting on. Remember that, David?
Yeah, I remember.
With the blue and black compression sleeves and the black and the with the alternate helmet. Make that the main helmet on those uniforms. Oh, that'd be fire.
I mean, here's the thing. I know a lot of Lions fans still have bad memories about those black unis from the Matt Millen era, but it's like, listen, regardless about the memories, that was one sexy mother flipping uniform. It looked good. I mean, we are part of the black and blue division. Why not use black as a secondary color? It looks good.
It's actually listed, even if you go to Madden to edit uniforms, it is the third color.
Exactly. It's still in there as a uniform option. And it's like, listen, I still pull it out every now and then because it's a damn good looking uniform. It works.
But what I do like about the new Madden is you can put that alternate helmet with every uniform and not even run with the silver on it. Blue
I mean, the more I've seen it, I have less of a problem with it. But it's like, listen, like overall, that blue helmet with the silver uniform, it just doesn't go as well as I would have hoped it would have.
No.
Big Dan Davis says, I've seen a couple of Bears fans begging for the team to make Tyson Bagent their starter just earlier. The Division II quarterback that nobody thought was going to make his way out on an NFL roster is Justin Fields' backup. Man, that's funny as hell.
That's some roster building.
Yes, Dale, I remember that the Bears did make a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. I remember that, but it wasn't because Rex Grossman was that good of a quarterback. It's because they had Brian Urlacher in that defense.
Yeah.
Just like how the Ravens took Trent Dilfer to the Super Bowl with Ray Lewis in that defense.
And don't forget, over half their games, Devin Hester had a kick return or a punt return touchdown.
Andrew Merklinger was pretty funny about my hooker joke. I don't make a lot of jokes, but when I do, they're something else. Smokey Sum says Larry Fitzgerald was a water boy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Chuck Osborne says Goff's running touchdown and Hutch's sack and recovery for his 2 plays. Elizabeth Oberlin says, I can't wait for the new stuff. I need some more gear to wear, LOL. I actually just ordered some new gear. It should be here in time for the Lions game against the freaking Packers on Thursday night, but we shall see. Hopefully it'll get here, shipping being what it is. Brent says, what happened to the Bear boasters bragging all the way to the basement?
I wrote the article last year. I was like, I don't care who goes there next season, but the Lions have cleaned everything up. They removed all their wall hangings. They removed all their decorations. We left the key under the mat of the basement door for whoever goes there this season. It won't be the Lions.
And at this point, it's who's going to be the lower bidder between the Vikings and the Bears. And at this point, honestly, I still think it's the Bears because the Vikings have come close to winning a lot more so than the Bears have even. Like, every single game that the Bears have played, they've gotten their asses handed to them every single time. There's not been one game where they've even been close to winning.
By the way, 0-3 starts for teams. Only 10% in the history of the NFL at 0-3 has even made the playoffs.
Yep. It's a kiss of death.
Yep.
And they actually said earlier today that 2-1 teams have a 54% chance of making the playoffs. So right now the Lions are in a pretty good spot.
Yep.
And if they win against the Packers on, Thursday night, they'll even be in a better spot. But we'll get to that here in a moment. So next topic here, Jeremy, you're up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get off the defense a little bit. We're going to go to the offense. So here we go. Lions offensive line did not play to its normal standard of opening up lanes for the running backs or protecting Goff. How crucial is it that the Lions get Decker back to move Sewell back to the right tackle spot?
If we want to beat Green Bay, who does have good pressure, they got Rashawn Gary on one side and Quay Walker on the other that are meeting at the quarterback. We need both of them in their respective positions.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. Jay, how about you? How crucial is it that the Lions get Decker back this week for the Thursday night matchup against the Packers?
I think it's extremely important to get them back, mainly because I hate the Packers. I've always hated the Packers, and I want to see Jordan Love be on his ass all fucking game because I'm sick of them trying to say that he's the next king of the North and all that shit. We took the king of the North out, and now the North belongs to the Detroit Lions.
Yes,
Well,
they do.
I'll say this right now. Against the New Orleans Saints defense today, Jordan Love looked like a human being. He looked average. No touchdowns, an interception, didn't really have a whole lot of decent throws. And it's like, listen, if the Lions can carry over what they did today on a short week, so there shouldn't be much, difference between the two, and they carry that into Lambeau, which, by the way, we were just in Lambeau a couple of months ago and put the hurting on them then, I think we should be able to give Jordan Love a good taste of medicine. But we'll see. Chris, what do you think? How crucial, how critical is it for the Lions to get Taylor Decker back for this upcoming game on Thursday night versus the Packers?
I think that is mandatory. Because that's what's going to shift our line into a better place. And like you was just saying, that's going to actually hold up and run the running lanes right without a problem.
All right, fair enough. DC, what about you? How critical, how crucial do you think it is for the Lions to get back Decker this week?
It's critical for us to blow him out like I want to. But if he is not back, I still think we got this game.
Well, if we do, it's going to be much more difficult. Because here's what I'm going to say right now. Again, Sewell is pretty okay as a left tackle. But again, the point of the matter is this. I don't have a problem Sewell being at the left tackle. What I have a problem with is having those backups on the right tackle spot. That's the problem. Because what's going to wind up happening is what the Packers will do is they will overload the right side of the offensive line with race car formations, and they will just send blitz after blitz after blitz to the right side. And after a period of time, that's going to start wearing down the offense. So getting back Sewell on the right side and Decker in the left tackle spot is crucial because what it'll do is it'll keep the offense, one, balanced. Two, the offensive line will be nearly at full strength again. Mm-hmm. And three, it'll keep Goff protected, and it should allow the offensive line to open up more rushing lanes if we can get Montgomery back. So I think it's crucial because we have to get him back so that way we can have all the offensive components working together. Jeremy, I see you got something you want to add.
Let's think about this. If Decker's back and Sewell's at right tackle, we need better play from the guard on the right-hand side too, because you can say what you want. Better guard play makes your tackle better. And Glasgow has been almost straight booty cheeks as well. So that way, I would almost start Sorsdahl over Glasgow.
Well, we'll see what happens. I think part of the problem with the fact that Glasgow hasn't looked good the last couple of times we've seen him is because, again, since you've had to move Sewell from the right to the left, now Glasgow has to play with some really bad right tackle play. And again, they both work off of each other. The right tackle makes the guard better, and the guard makes the tackle better. That's why Jonah Jackson has always looked good because Taylor Decker's usually been there, and when Decker's not there, Penei Sewell is there. But when it's the other way around, whoever that right guard is, either Big V or whoever else has been behind him, they don't look as good because who are they usually paired with? Oh, that's right. Matt fucking Nelson, who can't block anybody.
Evidently, they didn't realize Colby Sorsdahl was our 5th-round pick, and he played at right tackle and did very well once he got acclimated after 2 drives. But he's actually a guard.
Yeah, because originally it was Matt Nelson. He hurt his ankle, got carted off. Then they brought in Skipper, who they just signed back to the active roster earlier this week. He hurt his hamstring, and then they put in Swordstall, who played the rest of the game. And for the most part, did pretty good. Let's see here. We got ourselves a couple of comments here. Braylon Dana says that it's very, very crucial that we get Decker back ASAP. Chris Mason says it's a must. The Packers D-line is strong. Elizabeth Overland says, who do you think will be coming back off injury this week? Honestly, I think we're probably going to get 3 of them back. I think we got a good shot to get Kirby back. I think we got a good shot to get Montgomery back. And I think we got a good shot to get Decker back. Brent says that J Love is overrated. Dale says Decker will be back, speaking into existence. Chris Mason says Decker can always bail if his pain is really bad. I mean, Decker has always been having to deal with feet problems for the last couple of years. So I think he has a high pain tolerance. I think more than anything is just not letting it become a severe problem at this point. It's about managing it. Let's see here. Chuck Osborne says, no black, please, not black. The blue and gray is perfect. I'm sorry, Chuck. I'm not going to agree with you. That black is sexy as hell. I want it back. It looks good. It is good. I think we need to bring it back. Because, again, we're talking about getting rid of that SOL mindset. Part of that is getting rid of the montage, the freaking mantra that black jersey is a curse. Refit it. Remake it look good. Robert says, will Decker be back? I believe he will be. Elizabeth Oberlin says, will the Thursday game be on NFL Plus 2 or just on Prime? It'll be on both because NFL Plus plays those games as well as also NFL Sunday Ticket. So you should be able to get it on both. But if I was you, I would more than likely try to get it on NFL Plus because Prime sucks booty cheeks. Let's see here. Big Dan Davis says, it is extremely critical we get Decker back. If Matt Nelson plays on the right side, we'll be fucked worse than a hooker during a blue light special on a Saturday night. Decker has to play. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong because Matt Nelson sucks. I've said it for the last 2 years. I don't know what the infatuation is for having Matt Nelson be your backup swing tackle, but for whatever reason, Matt Nelson has found a way every stinking mother flipping year to make this roster. And it's like, dude, there are better other tackles out there. Why do we keep hanging on to this freaking worthless piece of space? I will take Dan Skipper. I was hoping Jermaine Ifedi was going to make the roster. I don't know how in the thunder we have had this guy make the roster the last 2 years, but it's beyond me. It's like beyond my ability to comprehend. Dom the Bandit says, I think Glenn heard you bash him, so that's why his defense looked good today. Good. I hope he did.
Nah, you destroyed him, bro. You exposed him.
That is one sexy jersey, Jeremy. I like that jersey. That is an awesome jersey.
That man showed out today, too. We didn't give him enough respect today. 102 yards receiving.
Well, I did say it earlier in the show, but I'll bring it up again. That was Amon-Ra St. Brown's 8th 100-yard receiving game in just 2.5 real years of action because he didn't really play the first half of his rookie year. And think about it. There are 17 games in a season. That means in 2.5 years, he's already got half a season worth of 100-yard games. That's top 10 production right there, especially for a receiver as young as he is. Lion King says, Gibbs starting to get his running vision. Watch out, NFC. Absolutely. Yep. Can you imagine with the vision that Gibbs is starting to develop with Montgomery? Now you're going to have dual threat capability. Chris Mason says, AG was about to go bye-bye without a huge win. I mean,
still a very high possibility.
Again, I said it before. I'll say it again. He has to do what he did today the rest of the season to officially get off that hot seat. Taylor Swift, Chris Mason says, Taylor Swift is overrated like Travis Kelce. Maybe not, LOL. I mean,
no, but I will say Taylor Swift is to any sports player she dates as bad as the Kardashian is.
No, I got you one better. Jessica Simpson with freaking Tony Romo. Remember that little duo?
Yeah, wasn't that right after she broke up with Nick?
Wow. Something like that.
Brent says we need to be back in black.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Amen. I like it. Freaking, I would love to have that AC/DC song break out in the stadium. Patty Grimes still contends the black jerseys equal the Millen curse. We need to get past that nonsense. We need to get past it.
And
Rich
Madden
Thor
has
says
black
they're-
jerseys in the playoffs.
Wait, we did use it as the alternate jersey in 2011 as well when we actually made the playoffs.
Yep.
Rich Force says there's a possibility Mosley will be playing too. There is a possibility, yes. But until it actually happens, I'm still going to be cautious. Again, I think it's more likely they're probably going to hold him out for one more week, and they're going to start him probably the next game after this one.
Please, baby Jesus, if he's held out, make Jerry Jacobs a healthy scratch.
Let's Stephen Gilmore get some time. I really want to see him play. Somebody else other than Jerry Jacobs. And it's like, listen, as much as Jerry Jacobs played good over the last half of the year, unfortunately, he's just not done it this year. He's already been huge in penalties. He's gotten burned several times. It's like, listen, I don't need to see more of you getting burned to realize that you're just Will Harris 2.0.
Yeah, I know, Marcus. I remember that. He brings up that Lions did a pitch play to Reynolds that would have been perfect for Gibbs.
Yep.
Touchdown Raider.
Paul Mayer says black and blue jerseys with the new alternate helmet. That would be pretty interesting. Let's see here. Brent says, what's awesome? We kept Bijan to 33 yards. That's absolutely awesome.
Fantastic.
Dom the Bandit says, I wish they give Jones more chances. He hasn't had a catch since week 1. It's not that they're not giving him chances. Notice who's not throwing him the ball.
Goff doesn't trust him.
No, and if you don't have Goff's trust when he's been throwing to the likes of the receivers he has been versus Jones, who is a trusted veteran wide receiver, that's a telling story right there. He's willing to throw it more to Khalif Raymond, who used to be a special teams ace, than Marvin Jones. That's telling.
Right.
He's more willing to throw tight end than Marvin Jones.
After that week 1.
Exactly.
It'll be hard to get it back.
Trust is something that can take years to develop and takes 10 seconds to break. Rich Force says we need receiving help. St. Brown still healing up. We've got receiving help. We've got Josh Reynolds. We've got Khalif Raymond. We've got receiving help.
And Antoine Green is out there with his speed. Granted, they're using him more like a decoy because he was a third-day pick for a reason.
This is true. Big Dan Davis tells us that the Raiders are up 7-0 over the Steelers. Good for them. Chris Mason says JJ was great at setting up plays for the double crunch. Smokey Sum says we should play Gilmore for sure. Absolutely. Chris Mason says black unis with the blue helmets. Ooh,
yes.
That would be sick looking. Chris Mason says throw Jones on the scrap heap now. I know Jeremy agrees with that. He was saying that after the first week.
I said that before he got to play. I said he's going on 30. He's lost a step. He wasn't playing good for the Jaguars. Why bring him in?
Paul Meyer says we need a jersey with a silver mane.
Oof.
I don't know about that. We already have the gray jammies. Rich Forrest
and the white jammies.
Rich Forrest says Goff today was key to this win with all our injuries. He needs more credit than he's getting. He is getting credit. He played very well. He stood in the pocket. He was constantly getting hit. The only mistake he had truly wasn't his. It was when he threw that interception. That's because, once again, he was getting hit. The point of the matter is Goff did a lot of good things. He was a calm, efficient leader. And I'm one of the biggest Goff fans out there. I'm just simply saying it for what it is. The defense stepped up because for the majority of the day, the offense didn't get it really going because our offensive line was so banged up. So it's like, listen, did Goff play a good game? Yes, he did. But was Goff the instrumental reason that we won? No, it was the defense. The defense stepped up, made plays, shut down the running game. They get top billing in this case. If you want to talk about who gets second or third billing, then you can start talking about Goff, St. Brown, Laporta, whoever else you want to talk about. But top billing goes to the defense today. There's no debate on that one.
I was going to say that's why it's important for us to get our offensive line back so we can put up 30, 40 points on the Green Bay Packers.
And Marcus, you are correct. Goff did have a rough second half, but why was that the case? The offensive line was banged up to all hell. And Paul Meyer does bring up, Goff said that pick was one of the worst throws he's ever had. You could tell he was feeling rushed. I mean, I said it. Yep. DC can actually can confirm it. I said, listen, all this pressure is going to get Goff with the happy feet, and he's going to start rushing throws, which is exactly what happened. Because think about it. What did they do the very next drive? They did a play-action boot. They got Goff out of the pocket so he wasn't going to feel pressured. Easy completion. That started the whole chain reaction. They go down that drive. They score the touchdown. That's what you have to do. When the quarterback's getting pressured in the pocket, give a play that he's comfortable with, start the drive, and then you can start moving. You got to get some forward momentum going.
Yeah.
Lovely. Chris Mason says, loved that Goff tutty heaving the rock into the stands. I'm going to say this right now. People can say what they want about Goff's laid-back personality, but he fucking loves Detroit. He loves being here.
I loved how he said that was the second worst throw of his career after the interception.
Yeah, I think the first one was the throw to the stands. I think the first one was the throw to the stands. He was trying to get it to the second level, and it missed.
Yeah, well, either way, I'm fine with it. He's not paid to throw it into the stands.
A couple people brought it up, and I know you brought it up too, David. They want to pay Goff, and I know they're talking about it, but I think they're trying to find a contract that works both ways. He wants to get paid, and he also wants to be here.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There were 6 quarterbacks that got brand new contracts this offseason. There were 6 of them. 4 out of the 6 guys that got paid this offseason got $250 or million more dollars in total money. The other 2 guys, we already know, Derek Carr and Daniel Jones, that got 160 or less. Between the lowest guy that got 250 was Jalen Hurts, and then you got Derek Carr at 160. There is about a $95 million gap between there. That's where they're going to put Goff. They're going to put Goff somewhere in between those 2 numbers. It would not surprise me that Goff probably is going to get in that $43, $45 million a year ballpark, which that's a fair payment for him because he's definitely better than Jones. He's definitely better than Carr. But is he on the same level as a Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow? No, but he's close. So $45 million, I'm comfortable with. I can take that.
Okay. He says Kenny Pickett's throwing dimes out there. He completed 1 out of 4 passing, but it went 72 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, I guess if you consider one ball a dime, sure.
It's not dimes.
Yeah,
it's not plural.
Dime. Big Dan Davis says 7-7 now. Pickett with a 72-yard bomb to Calvin Austin, which you just pointed out, Jeremy. Smokey Sum says Kenneth Pitt. Yeah, as you just said. Chuck Osborne says, Dave, I agree. Taylor Decker needs to come back. I would like to see David Montgomery back. I think that for Montgomery, there's about a 75% chance he comes back because there was a 25% chance he could play this game. By the time we get to Thursday, it'll probably be about 75-80%. And if that's that case, chances are he probably will play just in a limited capacity, and they'll probably use Gibbs a little bit more. Michael Shrembry comes in and says, hope he takes a discount so we can continue to add pieces around him. Consider the fact of where the QB market is right now. $45 million actually kind of is a discount because most quarterbacks are wanting $50 to $55 million. Rich Forrest says, Raiders look like they're sleeping on defense, LOL. They're not sleeping on defense. They're just blind in one eye. Haven't you seen the logo? All right, let's move on to the next topic here really quickly. So Chris will start us off for this one here. So I've actually kind of talked about this already, so I'm not even going to answer this one because I've given my opinion on it. Many Lions fans were calling for Aaron Glenn's head after last week's disheartening loss to the Sea Hags. Glenn in the defense responded, but is he suddenly off the hook or is his seat still hot? Chris, what do you think?
Well, I want the seat to still be hot, but it's warm compared to what he did from last week and this week. So that's what I think is warm.
So you think it's just warm at this point? Okay, fair enough. What do you think, Jay? Do you think that his seat's still hot? Do you think he's off the hook? What do you think?
I've been saying this since the last Carolina game. I wasn't in here, but I've been saying it. He needs to go. I will continue to say it until, like you said, he shows up week after week after week because I just cannot take the risk of him being our defensive coordinator in the playoffs and he fucking blows the playoffs because he cannot keep up with defense.
All right, fair enough. DC, what do you think? Do you think his seat's still hot or do you think he's off the hook after this performance today?
I think he might be leaning more towards off the hook because he clearly listened and clearly knew that what happened in Seattle didn't work. And hopefully he's smart enough and whoever else is behind him will push him to open up new avenues and go back to stunning blitzing, doing everything he was doing. Because the other part is, if he fires them, yay, the fan base gets their chunk of flesh. But who's next? What do they do? And are they going to be any better? Right now, with Glenn, we know we can win games. We might have bad ones. We know we can win games. We don't know what we're going to get with somebody else in week 3 mid-season.
I'll just say this. If Aaron Glenn is fired midway through the season, I already know who my replacement is in my brain. And that's promoting John Fox. He's got the most experience. He's taken 2 different teams to Super Bowls as a defensive-minded coach. Granted, he lost both of them, but that's more experience than any other coach on the defensive side of the ball. And experience does matter to a certain degree. Because think about it. Aaron Glenn had no experience as a defensive coordinator. Look at the fucking results we've gotten. At least John Fox has been both a head coach for 2 Super Bowl teams and has been a defensive coordinator before.
That's true.
If they let him go, it's definitely going to be an in-house hire.
Who knows, maybe. But, Jeremy, what do you think? Do you think that Glenn's seat is still hot or do you think he's off the hook?
I think it's warm enough he doesn't sit down all the way because his nuts will get hot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that answer. That actually has a sense of humor to it. I've said what I've said, and I'll keep saying it. Again, it was a great response by Aaron Glenn. Again, I give credit where credit is due. He heard the criticism. They'll say that they don't listen to that shit. I know they listen to that shit. They can't tune it out entirely. Heard the shit, heard the critics, came out, responded. Okay, that's great. Glad you had one great fucking day. Now let's see you fucking do it week after week after week to the end of the season. If you can do that, then like I've said on this channel, I'll stand by it publicly. I will rescind everything I've ever said about Aaron Glenn and say, okay, fine. You've earned your job. You can stay. But if you can't do it, then I'm still out on you.
And if he does that, you know what happens? He goes to Minnesota to be the head coach next year.
Hey, at that point, the Lions will know exactly what freaking type of, game plan to run against him because we've seen his defense now for 3 years. All right, let's get back to the comments here. Mike Taylor says, when are they going to run plays designed to get Gibbs in space? They kind of did some
every week.
As I say, they've kind of done it every week, and they did it a little bit more so this week because Gibbs was the leading rusher for the game, not just the Lions, the game. Paul Meyer says Raiders are allowing around 80% completion rate this year so far. Going to be a fun Monday night football game. I can already tell you that then.
Sunday night.
I thought it was Monday night.
It's on right now.
No, I'm talking about our game. I'm talking about our game on Monday night.
Oh.
Because he's saying that the Raiders are allowing about 80% completion percent this year. So I'm saying that when they come to Detroit on Monday Night Football, it's going to be a fun game. Dale says
something's up with Josh Jacobs, though. He's had three carries for 8 yards.
That sucks. Dale says, I think Monty will play against the Packers. His dislike for the Packers is like ours. I mean, yeah, he's a former Bear. So I think that'll motivate him, certainly. Chris Mason says Raiders defense got bitten by the ZZ flies.
The ones that make you go sleepy sleep.
Yep. Michael Powell says we will know after the Green Bay game and what he does there in reference to Aaron Glenn and whether or not he's still off the hook or on the hot seat. Elizabeth Oberlin says he is not off the hook. He needs to show consistency, which everybody has pretty much said. Big Dan says his seat is still hot. Shows us you can call a good game all year and not just one game. Paul Meyer says, without the Lions' miscues on offense last game, Seattle might have only had 17 points. We'd be telling a different story then. That's true, but at the same time, Aaron Glenn didn't adjust anything when the offense was giving those miscues. He kept calling the same damn thing. It's like, listen, it has to be more than just what your defense is doing. You have to take advantage and adjust to everything that's going on around you. Offense, defense, special teams. You have to take account for everything. Glenn says Glenn has to absolutely go, but being that he's Dan Campbell's close friend, I don't see it happening. Honestly, there are only two ways Glenn is going to walk out that door with either a pink slip or something else, and that is either Sheila walks into Dan's office and forces him to fire him, or by the grace of God, in the end of the year, he gets a head coaching job from somebody else. That's the only way I see him ever leaving this place. Anyway. Michael Shremby says, as in a Tom Brady-like discount, wishful thinking, but I know it won't happen. Again, it could happen. Again, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Because reporters have asked Goff about this very topic, about the whole contract. And he has literally said this. He's like, listen, if it happens, it happens. But all I'm concerned about right now is winning. There's only one other quarterback when it comes to contract negotiations that I've ever heard say those words. And that was Tom Brady. And Tom Brady was notorious for always taking pay cuts. And again, let's go back to when Jared Goff first got here. He willingly offered to restructure his deal to free up cap space so the Lions could have something to go into free agency with. Most quarterbacks don't do that.
And also, if he'd have done that, if he wouldn't have done that, guess what? He'd have been a free agent this season.
So again,
it was a massively bloated contract to begin with. It extended it by 2 years.
So what Goff does is he does care about the team, but he's also smart. He realizes that he can't just play the leverage game. Lion King says Jared Goff seems to be showing more swag and emotion than usual than it's been one of his knocks. I mean, for crying out loud, did you guys see it? He got pissed off because somebody didn't run a deep route in today's game. Yep. He got pissed. Chuck Osborne says Raiders just almost picked off the Steelers. Okay. I'm not even watching the game because I really don't care. I have no investment in it. Perry Ball says AG is on his last leg. The Lions need to bring in a good DC that will not be a head coach. Unfortunately, the problem is that most head coaches are former coordinators. So unfortunately, regardless of whether or not that's what you want, chances are it's going to happen or wind up happening one way or the other.
That's why it's called the coaching carousel.
Exactly. That's why if you are a good head coach, you have to find good replacements, which looks like Dan Campbell's pretty good at finding good coaching replacements, at least so far. Anyway, let's get to our next topic here. So Jeremy will be up first. So here we go. We've kind of, again, talked about this a little bit. Here we go. Lions came into this game with a ton of injuries, but yet still got the win. Was perhaps the biggest decision for the Lions in this game the one to rest players like Kirby, Monty, and Decker to be ready for Thursday night football?
Well, we still don't know if they're coming back yet or not, because one was doubtful, which was Monty, which means he might even miss this week too. But the other two, Decker and Kirby, was working out with trainers all week. They weren't in practice at all because they were rehabbing. So I think you may see Kirby and you may see Decker, but I think the verdict is like 40-60 for Montgomery now.
Well, we'll see. The fact of the matter is, even if we just get Kirby and Decker back, that'll be welcome reinforcements. So, fair enough. DC, what do you think? Do you think the biggest decision was to sit those guys so that way they have a shot to be ready for Thursday night football?
Yeah, if this is a division game, I think two, if not all of them, would have played. But yeah, they're having the luxury to rest them, go into it, particularly going into a Thursday night game. That was the right call, and whether they make it or not, we're not sure yet. But if that's the intention, it was a completely right decision.
Yeah, because, I mean, Dan Campbell even kind of addressed it. He said, listen, part of the gamble is, do you want them for this game so you have a better chance of winning, but also risk losing them for the Thursday night matchup because you have such a short week? Because, again, the Lions literally have a game again in 4 days. They're not going to get any chance to rest. They're literally going to have 1 day of rehab, 2 days of practice, and then they're right back at it. And the worst part is they got to do it again later in the year anyway when they go and play on Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it kind of sucks, but, the Lions are actually kind of getting a little bit of an early start on waiting for the later part of the year. But anyway, Jay, what do you think? Do you think it was the biggest decision was to hold out those guys that could potentially play to be ready for Thursday night?
I think they looked at it and they seen that, they were able to shut down K9 last week. So they looked at it and they was like, looking at it and they figured if they shut down Bijan and the running offense that they don't need these other guys. and they could beat them with what they had. So I do think it was a smart idea, and then bring them back against the Packers because that's a divisional rival rather than trying to put them in there and get them injured in the Atlanta game.
All right. I like that answer. Good answer. Chris, what do you think on this whole topic? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was about to say I'm going with everybody, mainly with Jay because for the simple fact, like I say, I mean, it's a game of resting them up for the games that we need, and the games we need, they should be a lot more healthier coming back in.
All right, fair enough. And again, the way I look at it is like I just simply said to kind of put the bow on it is that listen. Dan Campbell and the rest of the coaching staff, they took a calculated risk. They took a calculated gamble. They realized that if they didn't play anybody, they were going to have to potentially, figure in that those guys could potentially, without them having been out there, could lead to a loss. But at the same time, they also realized that they could still win without them, save them up for Thursday night potentially to have a better chance of going into Green Bay and getting their first win against a division rival this year. So I think when you take a look at the calculated risk that they took, it was the right decision because resting up those starters so that way they can have a chance, a good chance to play on Thursday night is better than risking them playing today. And even if you may have gotten the win, they still get injured, that would have sucked. But if you got the loss and still lost them, that would have been even worse. So I think it was a pretty big decision. And overall, I think the Lions made the right decision. Let's see here. Let's see here. Dale says, I have yet to hear anyone more schooled on Jared Goff than you, David. Goff doesn't seem to me to be the type to hold a team up for money as long as it's fair. I mean, you got to think about it. The quarterback market nowadays is widely out of proportion. Like, quarterbacks are getting paid at an exuberant rate, and it's not even close to funny. But when you think about it, the best way for a team to win, and not only win 1 year, but consistently, is to have the quarterback's cap value at a moderately decent value. And again, there has only been one quarterback in the last 20 years that ever figured that damn phrase out, and that was Tom Brady. And, oh, by the way, Tom Brady has 7 damn motherfucking Super Bowl rings for a reason. Jared Goff has said that he tries to model a lot of what he did off of 2 guys that are very similar in play style, Joe Montana and Tom Brady. And again, I'm going to tell you this right now. Jared Goff played against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and Jared Goff has said he learned a lot from that loss to Tom Brady. I guarantee you one of the things he learned is that the way Tom Brady has won all those Super Bowls is not by being greedy or selfish, hence the reason why Goff has made all of the decisions that he has in regards to money. Because, again, Jared Goff has said it before. He's like, listen, I don't need money. I have money to be set up for the rest of my life. Money is not my main motivation anymore. It's winning. That's why I think Goff is not going to want to break the motherfucking bank. But those are just my thoughts. We'll see what happens when the actual contract gets signed. Chuck Osborne says, David, I agree that AG needs to step. Paul Meyer says, Decker is by far the most important to get back. Perry Ball says, who would you like to be DC if we get rid of AG? John Fox is good for the rest of the season, but he is not a long-term answer because of his age. What do you got, Jeremy? Because I know you got an answer here.
I really like the guy that coaches the defense where Jack Campbell came from, Iowa, because that defense scores and helps their offense to win, which is god-awful. Phil Parker.
I mean, at this point, I've said it before, and I mean it kind of in a semi-serious thing. I'm almost good with anybody replacing Aaron Glenn. And again, unless Aaron Glenn gets better, that's going to continue to be my mantra because it's like, listen, I've seen how bad Aaron Glenn can be. I don't think it can get much worse. I hope I don't get proven wrong on that point, but it's like, listen, I'll take a college coordinator. I'll take a professional coordinator. I'll take John Fox. I'll take Kelvin Shepard. I'll take anybody because I don't like Aaron Glenn that much because of how inconsistent and poor his performance has been over the last 2.5 years. Michael Powell says, David, you think that's why we're using Jack Campbell sparingly to keep players healthy? No, I don't think that's it. I think more than anything it's because Anzalone and Barnes are playing so well that they don't have to put Campbell out there that much.
Why wouldn't you let a rookie develop and actually work his way into the defense by rotating him in rather than throwing him in as a starter and using him every down and having him come up lame at the end of the season.
Exactly.
A la Teddy Lehman, Ernie Sims.
And here's the thing. Plus, on top of that, linebacker is an incredibly difficult position to learn because you're the quarterback of the defense. And as smart as Jack Campbell is, we heard it in the preseason. We heard it in OTAs. We heard it in training camp. He still makes mistakes. I would much rather him play a little bit, learn from those mistakes, and get gradually better rather than, as Jeremy said, risk him losing confidence or getting injured because you're just throwing him straight to the wolves.
Marcus asked, would you take Michigan State's DC? I wouldn't take Michigan State's DC if you paid me.
Michigan State looked good yesterday.
Michigan State right now is just not looking all that good. And I'm a Michigan State fan, but even I can't watch them. Mike Taylor says, this topic demands props to Brad Holmes for giving us enough depth to even consider it.
Yes.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it even again in the future. Brad Holmes, in my opinion, is a top 10 NFL GM because of how he's been able to assemble this roster from virtually nothing but dung beetle heaps to freaking assembled, competent, competitive roster in 2.5 years. We went from the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia mess to the roster we have now in 3 drafts in 3 off seasons. That's a fast fucking turnaround, all things considered. Chuck Osborne says, Dave, all we can hope for is AG continue going in the right direction, but he's still on my hot seat. So until he showed me, he's improved. Perry Ball says, we need to get healthy, and I think we can roll. Absolutely. Health is absolute paramount to a team's ability to win later in the season. Paul Myers says, the game against the Green Bay is much more important than the next game against Carolina the following week. So if there's any chance of those guys playing, they'll play. Well, here's the thing. The reason why the game against the Packers is crucial is, 1, it's a primetime game. 2, it's a division rival game. And on top of that, Lions just take the Packers on pure principle. It wouldn't matter if we were playing them in the parking lot on a Saturday evening. We'd still want to fucking beat their ass.
I think both games are important because the Carolina game is supposed to be another redemption game for AG, just like the Seahawks game was supposed to be a redemption game for AG.
Well, the problem with I will say this, the problem with the Panthers game is this. I don't know if we're even going to get the one thing about the Panthers game I'm more curious about than anything is if Bryce Young's going to play, because Frank Reich actually said that Bryce Young could be out for a week or two. Now, we don't know if it's just going to be a week or if it's going to be 2, but I don't know if Bryce Young's going to play, which, let's face it, Andy Dalton, while he's a decent backup, there's a reason why he's a backup at this point in his career. Just saying that for what it is. Perry Ball says the Packers are on a short week, too. Let's not forget that. Yeah, let's not forget that. And on top of that, they barely edged out a win against the Saints. They won by 1 point. It's not like what we did against the Chiefs and won by 1 point. They beat the lowly Saints by 1 point. Now, granted.
And their backup quarterback, that if the first stringer didn't get hurt, they probably wouldn't have won.
Yep. Michael Shremby says, what about Rex Ryan as a defensive coordinator if AG doesn't work out? I mean, that's an option, but I don't know if Rex Ryan's going to leave the booth because he's enjoying himself on ESPN.
He makes $9 million a year to sit there and talk football rather than coach it and have to be up for 18 hours a day.
Yeah, he ain't leaving.
Perry Ball says, we need a guy like Steve Wilkes. Oh, I'm not so certain about that one. Michael Powell says, what about the defensive coordinator from Michigan?
It's an option, but, he's only this is his second year. I want to see that finish as a top 10 defense in college again before I think about it. Iowa finishes in the top 10 consistently, no matter how bad their offense is.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Brent says, against the Seahawks, our secondary was playing very soft, way too far off the wide receivers and tight ends. That is true, and we were bringing the boom in the game. Didn't matter if it was Tracy, didn't matter if it was Iffy, didn't matter if it was Branch.
And it really didn't matter because we had pressure.
Yep. Brent DeWitt says that Lomas Brown said playing preseason helped to get his body ready for the regular season, and there were less injuries in the first month. I have faith in MCDC. Maybe he should rethink next preseason. I mean, I understand the argument because if you play, your body will be better prepared to play the early part of the season. But at the same time, let's take a look at other teams that played a lot of starters in the beginning of the year, and they're dealing with a lot worse injury situations than we are right now. It's a risky venture. Okay, yeah. If you start starters and play them during the preseason, will they be better ready for the regular season? Absolutely. But there is a risk that they get injured, and then all of a sudden now you're out the gate and you might be 0-3, 0-4 because guys are still recovering from injuries. So I think that if you take a look at what Dan Campbell and the rest of them did, we're 2-1. You can't argue with the results. Chuck Osborne says Jimmy Garoppolo got picked off by the Steelers. What fucking else is new? Lion King says Branch is Benny Blades on steroids. I mean, you're not wrong.
I think he hits like John Lynch used to. That's what I see.
I'll say this right now. When I was in high school, I still remember they used to have those old VHS tapes with all the hardest hits from the NFL. And I swear to God, almost a third of those freaking hits were of John Lynch because that dude could always find the sweet spot. Like every time he could find the sweet spot with hits. And if it wasn't freaking John Lynch that was getting those hits, if it wasn't him, it was Ed Reed. Because those two loved to fucking hit.
And Ronnie Lott, Benny Blades, Louis Delmas. Say what you want about Louis Delmas, who had a short career, but he was one of the hardest hitting safeties we ever had for the Lions.
Yeah, he was a badass.
And he didn't care if it was in practice. He liked to try to take people's heads off. He was a headhunter.
I actually watched, I think it was either a Football Life or the America's game for the Buccaneers. And they talked about how one time after they got John Lynch on the Bucks, because he used to play for the Broncos, what they had is, or was it doesn't matter, when he was on the Bucks, one time they allowed the Buccaneers to go live hitting in practice. And if y'all remember where I'm going with this, they had John Lynch on the defense and they had Mike Allstott on the offense. And those guys met one time and the hit was so loud in practice, they forbade them from doing that ever again in practice. Because those two had no problem running and hitting each other in practice. And they're just like, no, we're not doing that ever again. So,
and Paul Moyer, that's where I'm at. If AG got fired, I think Shepard gets promoted because he's been with the team longer and knows the scheme better.
Yep. Dale says AG is not going to change his way of thinking. Unfortunately, he has to go. I mean, I don't disagree with you. Oh, no. Maybe bring in Todd Bowles if he gets fired to be the DC. No. Sorry, no, I ain't going with that one.
I was just going to say
I already suggested John Fox because of his experience, and that is an option, but some people don't like the fact because of his age.
If you want it to be someone that doesn't be an interim, if you want it to be somebody with longevity, John Fox is fine as assistant DC because he doesn't have to do everything all the time. Mm-hmm. But as a DC, he has to be more active and out there more, and his age comes into effect then.
I mean, there's only been one defensive coordinator that because of his age didn't really have a problem. That was Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips was a good coordinator all the way up to the day he retired from the NFL, and that's because he's just a damn good defensive-minded coach. But you don't see a lot of coaches that are in their 70s and 80s almost that are coaching the way he does. But, that is what it is. Braylon Dennis says, screw his age. If he can coach, he can coach. And I agree with you, but again, let me ask you this question. How many head coaches do you see in the NFL right now that are freaking like 60, 70 years old? The only one I can even think of off the top of my head is freaking Bill Belichick.
Yeah, there aren't a lot.
Yeah, so for me, it's like, I know age shouldn't be a factor, but unfortunately it kind of is, and it kind of sucks because there's a reason why they're that old and still in the NFL because they know what they're doing. I mean, for crying out loud, one of their defensive coordinator I can think of that did really well for a long time despite his age was Dick LeBeau. LeBeau was a mastermind of defense. But it is what it is. Let's move on to the next topic here. So this is, again, focusing on the Packers. Jeremy, I'll start you off again. Here we go. Lions are set to play their second primetime game of the season against the Packers on Thursday Night Football in 4 days. What is perhaps the biggest challenge for the Lions as they're set to play their first division rival of the season?
Well, I was going to say getting pressure on Jordan Love, but now that Bakhtiari's out and also their right tackle got hurt today, that might not be an issue. But at the same time, we said that about the Seahawks too.
That is true.
So I think it's stopping the run and forcing Love to beat you with his arm. Watson came up lame. I think it was Friday again, so his hammy might not be good yet.
I checked the injury report. Watson was limited in practice on Friday. Bakhtiari hasn't practiced since August 30th. Aaron Jones was a limited participant all week, and Jair Alexander was a recent injury for a back injury on Friday. Those are their biggest injuries right now.
Which also bodes why they were doing so good on offense before Derek Carr went down.
Yep, because they don't have their top cornerback out there, and chances are they won't have him out there this week either because back injuries are very tricky.
Back injuries, if you come back too soon, you can end up needing the same surgery that Levi and Big V had.
Yep. All right, DC, what do you think? What do you think's the biggest challenge for the Lions as they play their first division rival this season?
Stopping Jordan Love from running. Running quarterbacks tend to be a thorn in our ass. So as long as we can make sure that he's not running for his life and breaking off 15-yard gains and has to stay in the pocket, we're going to be fine. I'm not scared of their running backs, not scared of their line. What I'm scared about is if we send everyone in there and one juke or two and then he has 15, 20 yards. Because Patrick Mahomes is a lot more disciplined than Jordan Love is.
Normally, I'd agree with you, DC, but we've played against 3 mobile quarterbacks and held each of them pretty much in check. So, I mean, that's definitely a concern, but I don't think Love is one that likes to scramble as much. He's going to try and beat you with his arm because while he can run, he's more of a thrower than a runner. And again, the biggest problem I have with that is that Jordan Love is not really all that disciplined either because, again, I noticed some things in the Falcons game that pretty much told me that he's still a work in progress. So it is what it is.
That's all I'm worried about. I ain't worried about much.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Jay, what about you? What do you think is the biggest challenge for the Lions as they get set to play the Packers here in 4 days?
I got 3 challenges. Number 1, AG needs to show up. He needs to not get too happy with this win. He needs to sit down, get with these guys, get them ready for this game. Number 2 is going to be stopping that pass rush from the defense on the defensive line. And then number 3 is the refs. We need the refs on our side for one game.
All right. Fair enough.
I'll do it too.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Chris, what do you think? You there?
Yep, I'm here.
So what do you think the biggest challenge for the Lions is going to be as they get set to play the Packers here in 4 days?
Well, from the way that I've been hearing is they're going to have to shut down the run and do what they did this week. Shut down the run and force Jordan Love to pass. Don't let him scramble, even though he's a mobile quarterback, like you say, but you can't let him run.
Oh,
other than that, he should be fine.
36 yards.
Hey, that's still like 3 first downs, so we got to watch that.
Here's what I'm going to say. The biggest challenge that the Lions absolutely have to take care of in this game against the Packers is a relatively simple one, in my opinion, other than the fact that, you absolutely have to stop the pass rush from the Packers in terms of Rashawn Gary. And here's the other thing, too. It's not just Rashawn Gary anymore, and it's not just Quay Walker. The Packers also have another guy on that defense that
Kenny
is
Clark.
kind of –
Kenny Clark.
They got another one, too. Lucas Van Ness. Yeah. They've got
he hasn't impressed me yet.
No, I'm not saying he hasn't impressed. I'm just simply saying they've got a couple of guys that they can bring pressure on. My whole point is this. it's not just stopping the pass rush is a big challenge for me. Even if you get Decker back, that's still a challenge. The biggest thing is that what they have got to do above all else is they have got to find a way to do what they did today. Because notice what the Lions did. The Lions extended drives for a long period of time. There was one drive where they had the ball for 13 plays in over 7.5 minutes. You have got to find a way to do that throughout the entirety of the game, because one thing we've noticed between this game and the Seahawks game, when you tire out a defense, it makes your ability to move the ball better, and it makes difficulties for the offense on the opposing side, because I'm sorry, when you have to sit for 7-8 minutes and you have no chance to snap a play or do anything, you get out of a mojo, you get out of a rhythm. You don't believe me? Go back to the Bills-Giants Super Bowl when they kept Jim Kelly and that K-gun offense on the sideline for like 9-10 minutes because the Giants just ran the ball to death. So I'm just simply saying we have to find a way to make sure that we can keep the Packers offense on the sideline and out of a rhythm.
Brent DeWisk asks, as much as I hate the Packers, they have a good defense. Biggest challenge is our offense against their D. They have the 31st ranked run defense.
Which, if I am the Lions, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, play action, run the ball, run the ball.
Where they're top 10 at is passing defense. So you got to run the ball to set up the pass against them. That's the only way it's going to work.
To be fair, the reason why they've been a top 10 passing defense has been because Jair Alexander's been on the field for most of the last couple of games. But they weren't out there. He wasn't out there today. But the reason why it wasn't as bad was because, as Jeremy said, Derek Carr went down with an injury halfway through the third quarter. And on top of that, oh, that's right. Who did the Packers play against week 1 as a quarterback? Bryce Young, Mr. 5'9" nothing.
Yep.
So I think that those top 10 passing stats are a little bit soft. Now, don't you think? I think they're still pretty decent. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, okay, you're not going to likely have Jair Alexander. You have one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. I think the game plan's pretty simple. Run the ball and play action, which is what the Lions pretty much already do anyway.
Here's the other one. You have to look at it this way, because Jair Alexander actually played last week. London had over 60 yards receiving and a touchdown, and Kyle Pitts had a bunch of yards too.
Plus, on top of that, Jair Alexander had a ball thrown straight to him from Desmond Ridder, and he dropped the damn thing like it was a hot potato. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jair Alexander's still one of the best in the league, but even he's not immune to mistakes.
He's best against everybody except Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson.
Which coincidentally are the two guys he plays against most every year. All right, let's go on to the next topic here. So we're going to talk about the Packers in a more direct reflection. So, Jeremy, here we go. Packers won, but barely against the Saints, dealing with a literal bevy of injuries to starters. Alexander, Bakhtiari, Washington, Jones. Jones is the most likely to play next week, but the rest have either not practiced much or day-to-day. How impactful will this be to the Lions' chances of victory if most of them or all of them cannot play?
Well, as of right now, according to what one Packers fan said, they have 6 starters out today on offense alone. If they have 6 starters out on offense alone, I think it should be pretty much heavily favored to the Lions. And as of right now, Vegas has them as a 1.5 favorite. Considering that when you're home, you get 3 points. My goodness. But considering when you're home, you get 3 points given for being at home. That means that they actually think that the Lions, this is a 50-50 pick'em game.
I don't even think it's a 50-50 pick'em game because, I mean, I agree with your assessment because of the betting. The betting always favors the home team. But when you're only a 1.5 favorite at home, I mean, I'm sorry. At that point, it's like the only reason that Vegas is even giving them that favorite odd is because they are at home. Otherwise,
right.
they'd probably give them like a 4.5 point underdog.
But I'm glad they gave them the overdog.
Because usually when they do, the Lions always break the over.
They always cover the spread no matter what.
Always. And usually when they do, they cover it in fine fashion, like by a couple of points.
Mm-hmm.
DC, what do you think? How impactful do you think these injuries to the Packers are going to be as far as us being able to win?
It
You done for the
definitely
night,
will.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
All right,
go.
that's fine. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you
guys.
next time.
Yep.
Everyone, Jake.
We're actually
It will
almost
be.
done anyway. We got one more topic after this, and then we'll call it night.
All
It
right.
will be. I mean, anytime you're missing that many people, it's going to hurt. But
I mean, for crying out loud, we kind of got that feeling today.
Exactly. We've had that feeling for the past 3 years. So it will, but, it never seemed to bother them when we had half of our secondary and half of our offensive line out. So
that's true.
Maybe it's time to shoot on the other foot.
Yep. Jay, what do you think? How much do you think these injuries are going to impact the chances of the Lions getting a victory or the Packers getting a defeat? Jay seems to be busy. So, Chris, I take the question to you. What do you think?
I think we got a great chance as far as that. I mean, we just got to utilize it better like we did today. I mean, today we didn't play great football, but we got the job done. And if we could do it with the Packers, I think that we'll be able to overcome everything. Because like you say earlier, I mean, we can't second guess them like the Seahawks.
Fair enough. Here's what I'm going to say as far as the situation is concerned. I go back to what Bruce Lee used to say. Anybody can be beaten on any given day. So even though the Packers are going to be missing a lot of players, most likely, because, again, I don't see them getting Bakhtiari back. I don't see them getting Watson back. I don't see them getting Alexander back. And as Jeremy just said, their right tackle just went down with injury. So as far as I'm concerned, they're going to be very, very vulnerable. But at the same time, we already went through this little sideshow run, whatever, with the freaking, with the Seahawks. So for me, it's like, hey, just because you have a lot of injuries does not instantaneously guarantee a defeat. So the Lions still have to show up. They still have to bring their A game. They still have to act as if the Packers are a fully healthy team and go out and step on their neck and fucking break it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Jay, are you there now?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to get my kids ready for school tomorrow.
No, I understand it. I was just asking, as far as all the injuries the Packers have, how impactful do you think that is to the Lions' chances of victory?
It's 6 starters out on offense, right?
6 starters, I believe, are out on offense, or 5. Like, they've got a lot of starters out. Bakhtiari was out today. Aaron Jones was out. Christian Watson was out. Jair Alexander was out. And Jeremy said that the right tackle just went out with injury today. So they're hurting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very impactful because at the end of the day, they're relying on the next man up. I don't think their next man up is going to be as good, especially like Bakhtiari. He's like, one of the top 10 left tackles in the NFL right now. The next guy they got up isn't going to be like him. He's not going to be able to protect. Jordan Love is good. The backup running back they got, I know, is definitely nowhere near as good as Aaron, or the main guy that they got. I don't know a lot about him. Jair Alexander is going to be a big one because there's not going to be anybody to really cover any of our wide receivers.
Yeah, again, the way I look at it is this. You can say what you want, but again, it's always anybody can be beaten on any given Sunday. So Lions still have to come out and they still have to play the way that they always play. They have to play with their best effort, and they got to put their best foot forward. So, all right, we'll take a look at some of these comments here, and then we will get to our last comment, our last show. So, let's see here. Brent says all 3 teams in our division had easily teams compared to Detroit Rock City. That is true. They haven't really played a whole lot of hard opponents yet. Marcus says they played Atlanta. That helps them in the passing rankings for defense. I'd wait till later in the season to use offense and defensive rankings. Paul Meyer says Jones does nothing, then goes off for 130 and 2 touchdowns once per year in divisional games. I guess we'll see what happens. LDV Tennis says it'll be a blowout win for the Lions. Book it. We'll actually talk about that here in a moment. Dale says, what's Jeremy's channel called? I keep missing it, Dave. His channel is called Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. Just go onto YouTube, type in Kneecap Biting, Smoking Jeremy B. Either of those 2 search engine will get you his channel. It's very easy to find. LDV Tennis, you are right. Smoking B something. It's smoking Jeremy B. And it's kneecap biting with smoking Jeremy B. Mike Taylor says we're about as injured as they are. Actually, we are a lot better because most of our injuries are almost healed at this point. The Packers have a lot of injuries that aren't anywhere close, and most of their injuries are much more severe. Because think about it. Montgomery's injury is a thigh bruise. All that takes is just a little bit of time for the bruise to go away and feel a lot better. Again, he got injured last week on Sunday, and he had a 25% chance of playing today in less than a week. Now he has another 4 days to be ready for this game, so that's completely different. Bakhtiari has had knee injury issues for over 2 years and is considered a day-to-day, week-to-week for as long as he continues to play. That's how bad his knees are. Then you take a look at freaking Jair Alexander. He has back injury right now. Back injuries are extremely finicky and extremely tricky to deal with because if you don't play them right, they can lead into a much bigger problem. If you take a look at the Lions injury, you have freaking Decker with a foot injury who's had 2 weeks to rest it. He should be fine. You then have Kirby Joseph, who I think had a hip injury. He's been training. He's been getting some rehab, so he should be fine. And then on top of that, you have Mosley, who while his ACL is still repairing, he's been doing a lot more practicing lately too. Our injuries are at least somewhat similar in number, but severity are not the same. Donkey Kong says Hooker Starks week 10 locked. It's not going to happen, dude. You can forget it. Hooker is not going to play anytime soon. Again, Goff right now has got top 10 stats. He's got top 10 in passer rating, top 10 in QBR, top 10 in freaking passing yards, top 10 in passing touchdowns, and top 10 in completion percentage. When you have a quarterback that's playing that damn good, you don't pull them out unless they can't get up off the turf.
The only reason Hooker plays is if Goff goes down and Bridgewater goes down, then I think they put in Hooker. But at that point, I don't.
You're forgetting somebody else. Is if Goff goes down, Bridgewater goes down, and David Blau goes down.
Yep.
Because remember, Blau's on the practice squad. Let's get this final topic done here so we can call it a night here. I know it's been a bit of a long show, so let's get this over with. So this is pretty much a basic question. I'm not going to read through everything here. I'm just going to pretty much put it this way. Lions played against the Packers week 18. They won, ended pretty much the Packers' chance for the playoffs last year, and also ended Aaron Rodgers' tenure. If you think about it, the Packers have lost to the Lions the last 3 straight times they've played. So do you think the Lions can extend it to 4 wins in Thursday night game? And if so, what do you think the score is going to be? So DC, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Lions win? And if so, how much?
Yeah, 35-9.
Well, damn. Okie dokie. Chris, what do you think? What do you think the score will be for Thursday night's game against the Packers and the Lions?
I think maybe 10 to maybe 21.
Okay. So you think the Lions will win by 11? Okay.
Yeah.
Jay, what do you think? Do you think the Lions win? And if so, by how much? I think Jay is still trying to – oh, he's back now. What do you think, Jay? Do you think the Lions win and by how much?
I do think they win the game. It's going to come down to a lot of things that are going to depend, but I want to say it's going to be a 35-17 game.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. I think that you are right. I think all of us are on the same page as far as the Lions win. But what I'm going to say is I think it's going to be a 31-17 matchup because I expect that the Lions are probably going to get about 4 touchdowns, whether it's running or throwing. I don't know. And I think that at some point they're going to stall at some point and have to send Riley Patterson out for a field goal. So I call 31-17. But again, we're not necessarily expecting a blowout unless, of course, if you're in DC who's going 35-9. But overall, I think the Lions will win. I think it'll be a good win. Hopefully, that's the way it tunes out. Hopefully, at the same time, we get some players back so that way we're in a much better position. But with that having been said, we'll take a look at some of the fan comments before we end the show here. Oh, good God. Donkey Kong says Hooker is the best QB on our roster. Hooker hasn't even taken a regular season snap, a preseason snap, a training camp snap, or a practice snap. He's not even close to the best quarterback on the roster. He is closer to the dung beetle that's rolling around on the field in terms of talent right now. Braylon Dennis says that the Lions absolutely win. He says 30-17. Mike Taylor says Lions win 24-20. Patty Grimes says 31-21 for the Lions. Braylon Dennis says 30-17 final answer. LDV Tennis says 34-10. Wow. Travis Nitzberg says the Packers win 24-21. Okay. Braylon Dennis says 30-17 again. Smokey Sum says Lions win 32-10. So most everybody, save one lone dissenting voice, thinks the Lions win, and they win in pretty commanding fashion. So with that having been said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to end the show tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my live stream per normal for Thursday night. So if you guys want, we'll do the live stream like we normally do. Hopefully Jeremy will join us. If not, he'll probably do his own thing. But if you guys want, you guys are more than welcome to watch the game live stream with me for Thursday night. With that, I will put in the stream's link to obviously either the chat or to individual chats or to emails. So that way we'll be all set up for Thursday night. Sound good?
Absolutely.
All right. So with that having been said, we have come to the end of the show. Lions get the win against the Atlanta Falcons 20-6 at Ford Field. They now prepare on a very short week for the Green Bay Packers. So with that having been said, just want to say God bless. Thank you all for tuning into the show, and go Lions.